Welcome back to the Four Horsemen, and this time, truly, we have a fourth horseman. Luis Mira from HLTV, longtime Counter-Strike reporter, is joining us today, and the reason he's joining us is to talk about YaLLa Compass, which is a tournament series that recently died and has left over $1 million in unpaid bills lying around and a hole in the tournament calendar for Counter-Strike. So welcome, Luis.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be here, to be a horseman, even though it's not the best of circumstances, you know?
Well, look, it never is. By
the way, people don't know as well,
Luis actually at this point in time would be one of the most old school active Counter-Strike journalists in the entire space. Like, put it this way, me and Richard might predate him a bit, but it wouldn't be by much at that point in time, especially in terms of being active as well, because a lot of people, you know, had the years where they went away or maybe esports went down financially and they just went, as far as I know, you've been doing HLTV and so on some level the whole time, right?
Yeah, I started doing reporting in 2006 for Godfrag. I stayed there until it died down. I went to Read More. I worked for their English website.
These are all the classic sites, guys.
A month before it just completely crashed, and then I joined HLTV, and I've been working for them for the better part of the last 15 years or so.
Brief sojourn over to Deserto were me, where we worked together.
Oh yeah, true.
And then obviously Deserto were like, just esports just doesn't get any clicks. So
I mean, essentially, he was the canary in the coal man. As soon as they let you go, mate, it was obviously they were just going to become like content farmers and they just didn't give a fuck about like the editorial side. But anyway, essentially to say that Mira is one of like the original insiders in Counter-Strike, and because he's been working for HLTV the whole time, he's also been at like the main site for Counter-Strike. In fact, I'll even just throw this out there. One of the things people might not know is when people say me and Richard hate HLTV or we have some beef, no, there's literally like 2.5 people at HLTV. None of them that you'll ever see on camera. I know, well, whatever, then 1.5 or something, you know. There's like, they're not met. It's just a couple of people. It's not people like actually Mira were always the people who to me were just, that had nothing to do with any beef I ever had. That was just another journalist. You know?
Exactly
so
one.
I've always got a long fight with them,
Exactly one.
And before we get into the complete disaster that is the YaLLa Compass tournament series and the latest tournament organizer in esports to defraud absolutely everybody, happens way too frequently. And we are going to talk, I think there are some legitimate concerns about the new way that the Counter-Strike tournament system is operating, because some people are allowed to break the rules, other people not allowed to break the rules. How curious that is. But in any case, we're going to start with a few other topics. So here are the topics I want to hit right off the top quickly. We have some, of course, EWC news coming out, guys. First off, we did our last episode on the Esports World Cup documentary where we asked you, can you please go and add some more reviews to this? Congratulations. You guys have now officially gotten it down to a 4.0 out of 10, and it drops more every week. So thank you for reviewing that on IMDb. Not only that, but many of you took the time to actually write reviews, which are very funny and accurate about the sports washing. So thank you very much. Oh, come on,
is there a good one?
There's a bunch of good ones.
There's a bunch of good ones. So,
because I'm hoping the best style is like a satirical one where you pretend
there is one
it for
like
real
that.
And you okay, that's what I appreciate. You know,
there is one where it is a satire review. So yes, thank you to you guys who spent your time and energy to go to IMDb to sink this into the depths where it belongs. We've got a couple more EWC topics. One of them is that I know this will surprise everybody. Falcons has won the club championship of the Esports World Cup again. Now, the tournament's not even over, but it doesn't matter because Team Liquid can't get any points in Counter-Strike, and so that means that Falcons will win the entire event.
We're almost at the point where, like, the next scandal is, like, you know, you find out they just already ordered the trophy with the Falcons name written on it. Like, they don't even, like, inscribe it later or something, you know. Like, it's just obvious. If people don't know, as Richard has pointed out many times, as far as I know, they set it up in the Esports World Cup so that you can't, no other team plays as many games as Falcons. So automatically, if they don't win, how shit would they be? Is the problem.
Well, and like, here's the thing, guys, because Falcons is busy congratulating themselves all over social media for this victory. But let me put it this way. There were 25 different esports at this iteration of the 2025 Esports World Cup. Falcons fielded teams in 22 of these. Yes. 2 of them they did not were League of Legends and Valorant, which Riot will not let them do, to be clear. 100% they would field a roster. They tried to buy.
They tried to buy an LEC
They
slot.
tried to buy an LEC slot in Europe already and failed, and they cannot purchase a Valorant slot because those are not for sale. So they haven't been able to get into those two games yet. But hilariously, guys, the only game that they won first place in was Overwatch 2 with a roster entirely consisting of Koreans. And otherwise, even though Team Liquid, who came in second place, won 3 different events, Team Liquid did not. Actually, let's see how many they missed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Team Liquid only participated in 13 events instead of 22.
What did Liquid win? What were their games?
Well, this is kind of
Chess.
funny, too, to be fair.
Chess.
Can you guess?
Chess.
Well, chess is obvious. Yeah, Magnus Carlsen.
Did they win the StarCraft 2 one as well?
No,
they
came
did
in
not,
third
because
place.
Cyril won.
Oh, yeah. So it was Sarah
Right,
that
okay.
one. You're right. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't watched any of it, by the way.
Because you know, it's another flaw with
I'm
this whole
guessing.
concept is a bit like the infamous Championship Gaming Series. Another thing that is whack about the concept, because it's the problem, right? I'm not one of these people who goes mad on the thing of like, the fucking individual tournaments are all shit. No, they just have very limited formats because they gradually expanded it out year on year. If you notice, they started with something very limited with a few days and you could win one or lose one game and go home. That was intentional, you can tell. So I don't mind about that. But what I don't get is the actual premise that this is like a coherent thing where you follow a club through all the games is nonsense. Like, that is some CGS thinking that no fan has ever done ever. And more importantly, just like CGS, it's completely off the fucking pace, all the points, isn't it? Like, logically, if you were to time this to be a real World Cup where it was a club competition, like League of Legends and CS would have insane amounts of points, wouldn't they? Whereas in this case, it feels like the people who win are winning all like the games I don't even know are esports.
Of course, because Team Liquid won Mobile Legends Bang Bang, chess, and FIFA. Or I guess
that even
EA
sounds
Sports
like a joke that you say.
FC25 is what
it
it's
sounds
called
like
now.
you're
Whatever.
doing a satire piece. Mobile Legends Bang Bang. That seems unreal, mate. That sounds like someone is. Richard will appreciate this. That sounds like an esports journalist that is the first 80 pages of the Sound of the Fury attempting to describe Counter-Strike at the EWC. They go, that's just an Richard only.
You bring your William Faulkner to the table, you old.
Yeah, that's great.
I know.
I'm
trying to fucking.
the Faulkner,
I'm trying to
the
level
Faulkner
this
deep
up.
cuts in there. But in any case, so
By the way, that's such an outrageous pull because you'd have to have read that book to me.
that's all
No
right.
one's read
The
that
people who appreciate
of
it
course
will
not.
really appreciate it. That's the most important thing. So anyway,
Much like EWC in many ways.
Team Liquid. Now, many of these teams, nobody competed in as many events as Falcons did. Obviously, they give equal points so that Falcons can go spend way too much money on these smaller teams and get placements. What's really funny, though, is if you actually look at the poster, like the graphic that Falcons put out on social media, there's only the Overwatch team with the trophy, and a bunch of these other ones are just people who've placed like 8th place or whatever. A ton of them with 0 points. They got 0 points in these competitions. But because of the number of games in which Falcons participates,
You're on a poster for getting 0 points. Why?
yep,
Why is this
because
whole
they
thing
won.
such a clown
They
show?
won
It's all
together.
stupid, isn't it?
They won together, Thorin. So in any case,
They're a really important part of the team watching a DI for a totally different game, playing way better than them. I know what team concept are we talking about here? This is nonsense.
but it's okay because Team Liquid won $4 million, and Team Vitality got 3rd place and won $3 million. So it justifies absolutely everything that occurred within this event.
And everything Saudi Arabia does in many ways. Want to co-sign that?
Right. Also, by the way, in case you guys didn't know, I tweeted this out, but again, executions have increased in Saudi Arabia, especially during the Esports World Cup. They have now killed over 100 foreign nationals, so not even Saudi Arabians, mostly for minor drug possession, for minor drug possessions this year. So, by the way, nothing is changing, and in fact, things are just getting worse in Saudi Arabia. So anybody who tells you that this is the Open Hearts and Minds campaign and we will change them, that's just not happening. And finally, perhaps the most grim.
I'm just waiting until they figure out that Monty at the end of this show that always talks about them, the Saudis and EWC, essentially says death to esports that they're a part of at the end of every episode. Listen, Monty, you wait for that translation to get through. Mate. I'm not going to be there.
And is in fact from an ancient Roman speech about how Rome had to destroy Carthage. And you know what they did?
About how a North African empire sort of got out of control. You know, they was taking over shit.
They did it well.
It's on the nose.
I mean. So, they did, in fact, completely destroy Carthage and kill everybody and salt the earth, allegedly.
Allegedly, in a video game, in Minecraft, in Roblox.
And also, I will point out that the Carthaginians were actually Phoenicians who are from the Levant. So take from that what you will.
We're really swinging for the fences here on this episode, guys. We're doing the history of Carthage, William Fox.
Well, you see.
Why don't we just admit we fucking can't do this industry anymore? Let's just...
The problem is we just don't want to do esports. We're just trying to find any... We've become Richard the journalist 10 years ago who were like, write a review of Tactical Ops 2, but I want to talk about the Bush administration. Like, we've just become those people, actually. I can't believe it. We woke up one day.
All right. So the final thing is that there is now a new tournament that has been announced by the Saudi Arabian government called the Esports Nations Cup. Because, let me run you through this, guys. So... they didn't own the name for the Esports World Cup. That was owned by a tournament in France. And so what they did was they went and bought the name Esports World Cup. Now, you might think, well, if it's called the World Cup, then it should be a nation versus nation competition, just like the World Cup in football. No. This is a club competition like the Champions League, but they don't call it the Esports Champions Cup. So now they've announced the Esports Nations Cup, which is a tournament that is going to take place allegedly every 2 years. Who knows how long this is going to last? Starting at the end of 2026, in November of 2026, they're going to start this event in Riyadh, of course. They say they're going to move it around every 2 years. We'll see about that one. I have a feeling it might just stay. Maybe it'll go to Doha, guys. Maybe it'll go to Dubai. Is it going to go to outside of the Middle East? Don't think so. So they've got this new Esports Nations Cup. So they have to call it that, even though they bought the World Cup name, because they used the World Cup for the club competition, and now they don't have it to use for the nation versus nation competition. So they have just entirely fucked the branding top to bottom. And you'd think, well, why don't they just change that one to the Esports World Cup and rename the Esports World Cup? They already did that. They called it Gamers 8, and then they just called it the Esports World Cup. Well, some dipshit over there believes that this is incredible branding that they built up for this event, even though it's completely meaningless and nobody would care if they changed it tomorrow. But here we go.
And as I pointed out, Monty, as soon as I saw this news, the biggest marketing / PR fail of this is mainstream journalists are going to write about the Nations Cup, and they are going to immediately draw the parallel. This is like a World Cup of esports, which obviously directly goes against your branding of the other tournaments. You've also just unnecessarily created brand confusion there, which is the last thing you want to do at the outset, isn't it? So, but as usual, just fucking people clearly not thinking about the next step when they're enacting the one before. It's not really a master plan, is it, this?
Luis, you have any thoughts on the Esports Nations Cup as an OG esports guy? Remind you of the World Cyber Games at all?
Yeah. Beyond the game, brings me back a few years to World Cyber Games. But I think the branding confusion is definitely there. At least in Counter-Strike, we don't even know if there will be a Counter-Strike tournament. From what I've seen, they've partnered with a bunch of developers like EA, Tencent, and Ubisoft. I don't even know if they'll be doing something with Counter-Strike. Even from the calendar perspective, it doesn't even make sense because they're doing the first tournament in November 2026, and we have a bunch of tournaments already there, including a major. So I don't even know if it makes sense. I think they'll be doing
And remember, most teams wouldn't actually be able to play it. It would be like some WSG shit where you have a couple of teams. Obviously, you have Russian teams and stuff, but actually most teams would have to be mixed teams. So I don't even know how in the calendar you'd make that work. I'd even say it's a bit like in sports where people want to go and play these other tournaments in football, and sometimes they get told by their club, you're going to ruin our Premier League campaign. How are you going to let people go and play this tournament if you're trying to win the major right after or something? It's going to be. I think it's actually going to be impossible to schedule, mate. I don't know how you're going to do it.
I don't think Counter-Strike will be part of it. At least not during the first tournament.
Yes. Because if you don't know, Monty, that is what happened the last time this was done in Counter-Strike. Last time it was done in Counter-Strike was WESG. It wasn't actually. Or the EN, they had a similar thing. It was called actually World Championship done by EFRAG. And I can tell you, all that happens is people just cynically, the top players don't play it, mate. That's the other issue you're going to have. So you might have a world where you're like, wow, imagine how good France would be. Zima won't be playing, mate. He'll be off with Vitality. Like, you'll just be watching like some fucking guy you haven't seen from an academy team play from France. So it might not even, sadly, even be what you dream of. Same thing for Denmark. Oh, wow, maybe a strong.
I will say here, unlike previous iterations of this, because we used to have ESL did one, Clan Base did one. Yeah. Obviously, so what used to happen is basically like what Duncan's talking about. All the people that, like, the real players didn't want to play in that shit. It was a waste of their time, and the prize money wasn't worth it. There was no prestige with representing your country. In fact, for context, in one of the clan-based nations cups of yesteryear, I played. I represented the United Kingdom. So
you're like, I'm capping myself.
Quite literally, I played against Greece because me and a chap called Sonic, who sadly he's passed away now. Jonas, we were both like old school dudes that like knew. So we agreed that when Greece played the United Kingdom, we'd both play. And I was there with I was there with like Rattlesnake and the boys and what have you. And just anyone. Basically, the reason I got the captaincy was I was able, through my connections in Source, to essentially fucking corral players to come and play because nobody wanted to play these fucking things. So you just had a bunch of unknowns representing the country. Now, this won't happen here. If Counter-Strike is involved, which, spoiler, it won't be for reasons I'll get into, at least here, there is a financial pressure. Vitality will send Ziwu. They'll have to because the
Saudis
money will go...
Okay. Yeah. I guess it also just depends how much money you're going to put in as well.
You like making $3 million for coming third in a meaningless manufactured tournament, right? You like that, so we'll just take that away if you don't.
By the way, how is it? Also, I am the only one who seems to have noticed. Like, there's certain problems. Maybe it's because of my own social media. I've just learned you can sort of predict that there might be a problem there, right? One obvious immediate problem I see when they announce a nations tournament, Monty, is I just think. That makes now politics a massive part of the fucking tournament. Like, spoiler, now we already in Counter-Strike, by the way, have to almost like pretend it's not awkward when people ask like Blade and Ukrainian what he thinks of like Spirit, a Russian team winning. Like, obviously that already basically like tests him in a way where he can't just say like whatever he thinks, or he has to think about things like, what will people back home think? What should I say? What if they, there's a million things. Well, similarly, right, Monty, I can tell you right now, one of the angles people actually have missed because it's a really weird thing that's happening right now. I always say the most uncomfortable thing in esports context of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict is it's come right at the time we have the greatest crop of Russian Counter-Strike talent ever. And they used to before mix freely in Ukrainian teams, but that can't happen now. And it's made this awkward scenario where we have all these teams succeeding that people do want sanctions and things like. Well, similarly, right, if you've ever known or followed any of Richard's work about the EWC and Gamers 8, whether or not Saudi Arabia, the country, says they are friendly to the country of Israel, some of the people there certainly are not. Let's just say not fans. Let's say they would express then not being a fandom out loud at the event if an Israeli player was there. Hence why in the past, Israeli players in Counter-Strike, some of the most famous players in the world, took literal like physical security with them to the event. Well, I'm immediately thinking, right, we never actually had relevant Israeli Counter-Strike players for most of history. But right now, you can unironically make a team of 5 Israelis that actually for real would have a chance to come top 4 at this tournament. Like, they would actually be really good. They're some of the best players in the world. And I'm immediately thinking again, how does that play with the crowd at that event who was all fucking paid for? How would that play politically in their country if they had to say Israel won the tournament? Like, again, we don't know how this will play out, but you can see the obvious pitfalls that could occur from this sort of a thing, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Same thing with China. I mean, luckily we don't have like Taiwanese players that are big in CS. You know what I mean? Any of these, it's going to get awkward, isn't it?
Now, the other aspect I just wanted to quickly bring up, and then I'll get Luís to jump in on this as well, is we don't know that Counter-Strike is going to be involved, and there's actually a likelihood it isn't, because this appears to me to be a dry run for Saudi Arabia's involvement with the Olympics. And one of the things the Olympics have always said, it's why esports hasn't really intermeshed with the Olympic ideal, is they are like, well, if the video games promote violence and killing, that is against the Olympic spirit, so we cannot have them in there. And obviously, in Counter-Strike, no matter how much we want to dress it up, you are a bunch of people running around either planting bombs or shooting people who plant bombs in the head to stop them planting bombs.
Saying terrorists win doesn't really feel like
exactly. Well,
does it, in some ways, you know.
maybe look up the documentary one day in September or whatever. Yeah,
okay,
they haven't won. They tried to win in Atlanta too, but that didn't happen. Anyway,
So
Yeah,
I mean, I imagine Luís thinks probably that Counter-Strike could be left out, right?
Yeah, I don't think it will be part of it. And even if it does, we'll have something like what we happened in 2016 with the World Championship, the one Thorin was referring to. And for example, we're talking about Prime G2 and Prime Titan with players like Kenyes and Shocks and NBK and Apex. And the team that represented France in that tournament, okay, was Fox, No Nick, Mistu, XMS, and Kyoshima. That was the team that represented France in that tournament in Serbia. So most likely, with this being close to a major, I don't think, even if Counter-Strike is part of that, I don't think we'll be having the best players there, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And like, I mean, but like I say, I genuinely think there'll be some shenanigans, let's say, in the background where because remember, this is just run, but now by this insane.
Oh, Richard, by the way, the obvious
essentially,
biggest angle they could even do as well would be the excuse you have to skip the blast event or some fucking shenanigans, chicanery like that, which they're already so close to anyway for the EWC people, right?
Put it this way, as we're seeing it towards the end of 2025, and as we're going to see throughout 2026, which is the year this tournament will take place, there's going to be a lot of tournaments that are deliberately overlapping with each other, and the ones that take precedent are going to be the ones that are in this cabal, of the EWC / wink wink nudge nudge ESL. We're totally separate, wink wink, and so basically there is a pressure on, if you're one of the organizations. I'm not talking about Liquid, Vitality, and Na'Vi. They're all in. They push their chips into the middle and gone. We're not just gonna participate. We're gonna proselytize. That's how they're doing it. They are literally saying to other teams, we represent you and we'll represent your interests with Saudi. They're the ones that somehow manufactured getting paid just to attend, getting paid if your game is the most viewed game, because obviously they're the orgs with the viewership. And so there's zero chance of any of their star players sitting out something even as trivial and frivolous as a fucking Nations Cup. And if it does overlap, which, by the way, the Saudis have made it clear, we get the dates on the calendar we fucking want. And same with ESL. We just take the dates we want. If it overlaps with a PGL, if it overlaps with a Blast, if it overlaps with a Fissure, we don't give a fuck. We're just going to do it the way ESL's always done it. Then obviously, you will see people like, you could even get to an insane situation where Vitality send a bunch of ringers to Blast to meet their contractual obligation while sending Ziwu and maybe Apex to the French national team for the Nations Cup. That's a very real thing that could happen, I think. I think we're in bizarro world now. So where the Nations Cup wouldn't matter anymore, because it's a Saudi-owned and Saudi-run project, it'll take precedent over a real Counter-Strike tournament.
Plus, there's threats that ESL could make via non-participation, potentially, in that event, behind-the-scenes stuff. I also want to touch very briefly on this announcement and what it could mean, because some people are going to be wondering what it means on the Riot side. I think that the choice to use the word Tencent is very deliberate here, because Tencent owns Riot, and I think Riot does not want their name associated with this event. But I assume that Tencent means that at least, obviously, they're going to want League of Legends and Valorant there. One thing I will say is that Valorant, I don't think will have any calendar conflicts during that period, but the League of Legends calendar has been readjusted to send Worlds into November. And I will also point out that at the end of 2026, when this is supposed to take place, the 2026 Asian Games are also scheduled for September and into October, which means, because we know Riot does this, in 2023, the last time these games happened, they pushed the League of Legends calendar so that the Asian teams could go. Why did they do this? Because if you get a gold medal and you are Korean at the Asian Games, you get to skip your mandatory military service. So that means that Faker got exempted from military service, and Chovy last time, and many other good players. And so this means that they are able to stay as active players in the League of Legends ecosystem longer. And so probably what we're going to see is that Riot is going to push the start of Worlds into the middle of October, and then it will run later in November that year, I would assume, because we cannot have overlap between the Asian Games and Worlds. in which case it may disrupt League of Legends participation in this event. Or they will go to Worlds and then immediately the day after go to this event, just like they did MSI to Esports World Cup. Who knows? Right. But that's kind of my take on this as far as future calendars go. All right. It's dumb is the answer. And will it ever leave the Middle East, or is it just another, sports washing bullshit? Will it
I do want to remind everyone,
I
I did say that when the Saudis came in, right, I said they will not be satisfied with just participating. They will want total control, and essentially all tournaments will be strip mined of all their assets until we get to a period where we're running multiple tournaments in Riyadh, and all roads will eventually lead to Riyadh. I said that the day of the Savvy Games takeover. This is pre-Esports World Cup. And now we're at a stage where ESL is about to probably have another round of layoffs. It's even conceivable ESL could be sold or has to scale down to become a production company where its biggest client would be the Esports World Cup. And now the Esports World Cup, they took the Dream League for Dota 2. That's quite literally now called the Road to Riyadh, right?
Perfect.
Love it. They did that, where basically if you do Dream League, the winner goes through to the Esports World Cup, but it's not the Esports World Cup for Dota 2. It's its own thing. It's the Riyadh Masters. And then we've got the Esports World Cup in Riyadh, a rebranded Gamers 8, which has multiple tournaments across multiple games, Falcons being in most of them. And then we also now have a Nations Cup in Riyadh. And we're watching, as we're about to get into, we're watching upstart companies that are trying to create new tournaments. We're watching them go under. So if we continue down this road, there is a very conceivable world where even my boldest prediction is actually way behind where we're going to end up. And that is that conceivably almost anything, there's a world where we could have something really retarded, like ESL Cologne, IEM Cologne, Riyadh.
Like the online era where it was like, IEM Haidan, Beijing, but it was like European edition online.
And what I mean by that is it could quite literally be they do Cologne in Cologne and then they just play the final in Riyadh.
Right.
Right, because the Premier League's doing shit like this, right?
Yeah. Sure. So, that would be a way to make it like the Super Bowl type vibe they want, yeah.
And
by the way, it's why the joke, I think you already made it on this show many episodes ago, it's why the joke that is too on the nose is this one, Monty. Just like how when the Saudis come in, magically, the Esports World Cup, the World Cyber Games get recontextualized. Well, the most famous line ever in esports about the country of South Korea is, it's the mecca of esports. You write the rest of the joke. Yeah. The rest of the joke.
That's right. We'll call the Road to Riyadh the Esports Hajj instead. We'll just rebrand it.
It's too on the nose, isn't it? It's too on the nose.
Esports Hajj.
All right. And I'm scared. And believe it or not, Monty, finally I'm scared to make jokes. Now I've found my line.
It only took you 25 fucking years to get there. So
you have to realise if I won't go to Poland because someone might fucking do that surprise sucker punch on me for 10 years ago, I'm definitely not fucking with people who might actually murder me for religious reasons. You win.
Put it this way, I think you're okay in Poland.
I'll tap out.
I think you're okay. Enough time has gone past.
Now, we here at Last Free Nation and the Four Horsemen only use the best. And what's the best keyboard, you may be wondering? Well, that's easy. It's a Wooting keyboard, guys. In fact, according to ProSettings.net, 2 of the top 3 keyboards used by professional Counter-Strike players are the Wooting 80HE and the Wooting 60HE+. Now, what makes them great? Reasonable question. Well, first off, they use Hall effect sensors. These are magnetic sensors in each key that can detect how far the key has been pressed down to the millimeter. So unlike traditional mechanical keyboards, which have a set actuation point, this allows you to set the actuation point of any key to any point you want. So you can say, customize your WASD keys for Counter-Strike with a lower actuation point so you can trigger them faster. Not only that, it has rapid trigger technology. It will improve your gameplay with smoother movement and strafing. What it does is it dynamically changes the actuation and deactivation point of your keys. So the instant you release your key, it stops registering, and that means it'll smooth out your strafing movement as you switch between A and D keys. These are fantastic pieces of technology that will not only up your game, but it'll feel better to play as well. Plus, Wooting comes with the Wootility, which is an industry-leading app that allows for full customization of your keyboard by setting actuation points, RGB control, multiple profiles, which you can change with just a key, so you don't have, let's say, different WASD actuation for when you're typing, which could be very annoying, but you can switch it with just one key, has rapid trigger settings, and more. And on top of that, they offer an unrivaled 4-year warranty and a 30-day no questions asked return policy. So if you don't like it, you can just give it right on back to them and get your money back. You go to wooting.io and use code HORSEMEN, that's horsemen, MEN plural, and the first 250 customers will also receive a free Wooting Uwu with the order of any Wooting keyboard. So be sure to add this into your cart, and it will deduct that price alongside a keyboard. These are very useful, especially if you play rhythm games like OS, but they're also a fully programmable macro controller. So this goes into your USB, has delightful RGB bar right on top of it, and so you get this absolutely for free with your purchase. It's a $50 value. You can improve your game with a cutting-edge Wooting keyboard and get a free Uwu. Now, simply add your keyboard and Uwu to your cart with code HORSEMEN and get your Uwu for free. Go to wooting.io and use code HORSEMEN. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about Luis's reporting now. So
By the way, I just want to say right out
guide.
the gate, great reporting, Luis. This was
Excellent.
really
By
well
the way,
done.
you know, Luis. If there was still an Esports Journalist of the Year award, this is the kind of piece that would put you as a front runner for it. I think, like, really fantastic work on this.
Thank you.
And if you guys
Sadly,
haven't,
that's gone.
if you
Yeah.
well,
Is it sad?
we can have our own
Sad,
award.
I don't know.
Blackjack and
Do you want to
hookers.
be there in ring hand?
Yeah, exactly.
The little golden suitcase.
You know, the idea of it was nice. The reality of it right now is less nice. So, yeah. Let's talk about this because your report, which we will link below, you actually did a couple different reports, which we're going to probably start with earlier this year because the report you did about how they lost their YaLLa Compass lost their ranked status within the Valve ranking system actually fed directly into this catastrophe that's happening here. But the latest article you released on August 11th, it's on HLTV. It's a 5,000 word, excellently written breakdown of everything with tons of inside sources, interesting quotes. So I would encourage you guys to go ahead and read that article also. But the gist of it is this. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. YaLLa started as a team, and it was the CEO of this team. His name was what? Help me pronounce his name. Klaus Kajeski. Yeah.
Yeah, he's even got jet ski.
It does literally have the word jet ski written like that in his name. Like a badly written script.
Like a Bond
So
villain
Mike Judge movie or something.
So tell us,
in it. It's nuts.
Luis, tell us about the origins of YaLLa Compass, because in Counter-Strike you have all these different tournament operators. This is a relatively recent one that popped up in the UAE.
So basically it started out as a pure competitive esports organization in 2016. Even though the owner and founder Klaus is from Finland, the organization was based in Dubai. So it started out as an ambitious project to build an organization that could become, I guess, what Falcons is today, right? A very successful Middle Eastern organization, and they were quite successful according to some of the people who were there. They didn't have that much success in Counter-Strike, but overall they had some success over the years. They became more and more professional. We're talking about a period of time where esports in the Middle East was not very professional, right? They didn't have the financial backing that they have these days. Over the years they became bigger and bigger. They had more and more teams. They competed in Valorant, in Counter-Strike, for example, in Honor of Kings. I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit. But they, as many other organizations, they were severely hit by the pandemic. So that came, as quite a big hit to them. They had to find different revenue sources, and that's why they pivoted to acting as an agency, right? They started, doing some events. They started working with brands more closely, and I guess over time, Klaus decided, okay, this is much more profitable than running an esports organization. So why not just close down the competitive side of the business and just focus on being like an agency? And that's what they did. I think it was at the end of 2022. Yeah, at the end of 2022, they just shut down the competitive part of the business, and they just started running as an agency. And that's in 2023. That's when they launched YaLLa Compass, which was a Counter-Strike circuit. That's when they announced their first big LAN tournament in 2024. Sorry, last year, the one that Mongols won over NIP. So yeah, pretty much just a traditional organization in its at its core, but that over time they pivoted to just something completely different, and they started running events in this case a Counter-Strike league and a Counter-Strike circuit.
I always think it's a bad sign when you have an organization that like pivots totally, because they were also like a media company, right, for a bit, and they tried a bit of everything, and it just reeks of grift. It just smells to high heaven. Like, this is just a bunch of people. They want to make it. They don't care how. They don't have any particular expertise. They're just chucking shit at a wall, seeing what sticks. And yeah, a lot of organizations have kind of gone down this route and ended up in the same end stage that YaLLa Compass does. I'll also add as well, the guy that's behind it didn't exactly have a stellar pedigree. This is another reason why esports is so fucking busted, that there were people out there complaining about this guy and about their time on the team where they didn't get prize money.
Yeah, this was known last year.
Yeah.
That's one thing I saw in your video, Richard. Here's the most shocking thing. There's two quick things to say about this. One is, this is actually why, by the way, it is really important that there are people like Luis doing real journalism and stories like this, because this is why, you know what, but people think we're just being like crotchety old men when we go like, Jake Lucky and Desertor's fucking social media team can't be journalism in esports. If it is, we're never going to get stories like this. They're just going to do stuff like, hey, I've heard something from a stream. Like, Jake Lucky, I'm sorry, isn't going to let you know that like there's some like criminal behavior going on or people are old, because that was really shocking to me, Richard. Like, if you actually go back and check, there are just people publicly saying that these companies owe them money and have never received it. And that's last year, way before a lot of like people would have worked with them now or gone to the events now. Or by the way, maybe a Valve should have looked into whether they get to have VRS points, etc. Like, that's actually fucking kind of crazy in itself, mate. People have ignored that, like, this wasn't even, like, none of it was out there. There was, like, little bits. It just didn't connect to the big CS story yet. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were supposed...
the other thing, very quickly, one last thing to say as well is, this is also why, by the way, I thought this would be a good episode, because people must have seen many of the Saudi episodes. The one thing other to say as well is, notice in this case, it was a traditional esports scam. It was someone who claimed they had the money, and then they were stealing from Peter to pay Paul, and then they could never get the sponsorship they wanted, but they kept like trying to do the thing where it's like, right, now we have to get 3 times bigger to make up for what we owe before. That's the oldest esports scam in the book. But what I want to, one last point is this. You know, when you all do that whataboutism thing that is really boring of like, you guys going about the Saudis, but what about the USA, right? Well, technically by your logic, right, UAE must be the same thing as Saudi. This isn't the UAE government funding it using the funds of the fucking country. Do you see the difference? The difference is the Saudis have a giant bag to pay people because it comes fucking oil money, and they're doing it like, literally for sports washing to promote their country and to stop people talking about them. This is just a Counter-Strike tournament. This is why this isn't even the same ballpark or magnitude at all for me of what the Saudis do. So to me, don't confuse the two in that sense. Like, actually, if anything, I think some people, by the way, did get tricked on this particular topic, I can tell you, Luis, because I think some people who are like talent, for example, that I know, who never looked into the politics, they just assume all the Middle Eastern countries doing events now are like this. Like, oh, if they have an event in Dubai, it'll be the same. It's like, no, it depends whether actually like the Saudi government is involved. They're the ones that have all the money, mate, and you imagine will pay, because this was just like, this reminded me of the ones from like 15 years ago, mate. It's like Richard says, this is like some sauce shit, mate. What the fuck is this?
Yeah. And yeah, they were supposed, after the event in 2024, the one that Mongols won after beating NIP, this year was supposed to be a big thing for YaLLa Compass. They were supposed to follow the VRS, the new system that Valve has put in place. So they were supposed to be doing 2 LAN events. 2 LAN events this year. The first one was supposed to be held in Qatar, ended up being canceled and moved online. Supposedly because the MRQs clashed with the event, but I got told that there were some serious doubts as to whether they would be able to pull it off, or even if they were to pull it off, it would have been nothing like what most people imagine, right? And yeah, at the start of 2025, I put out a report about the mess that Tier 2 Counter-Strike in Europe was, with CCT mostly, but also YaLLa Compass. They were not following the rules that Valve set for the circuit. With CCT was
hold on, Luis, just really quickly, for those people who are not the VRS system, if you guys want to understand that, we did an episode when that was announced with Messioso. It was released on August 18th of 2024, so basically a year ago exactly. It's called Is Valve Ruining Counter-Strike Exposing Conflicts of Interest? So if you guys are interested in that, go back and listen to that because it explains the new system. But in a nutshell, the VRS system it's the Valve regional standings, and Valve basically gives out points and keeps their own leaderboard, which is going to now, as of this next major, directly, the top 32 teams are getting directly invited, and it's based on performance on the circuit. So the MRQs that he's talking about the last ones were used for the Austin major that Blast ran a few months ago. And those were the qualifiers, but those qualifiers are not happening anymore. There was a conflict between the qualifiers and this YaLLa Compass event, allegedly, although Luis is saying he doesn't believe that's true. So they were like, Blast suddenly had to do these qualifiers for Valve, and they ran into the tournament that was scheduled. But effectively, in order to run as part of this new system, there are an incredible number of rules about how you have to invite teams to these events. In order to qualify to be a ranked event. And ranked events are the ones that contribute points so that you can now qualify for big tournaments and the major. And if you have more points, you get automatically qualified to all of the big tournaments like Cologne and whatever else is on the calendar, right? So, Luis, now continue, because that directly ties into what you're about to say about the rest of this.
I have very strong
YaLLa
reasons
stuff
to believe that the scheduling conflict between the MRQs and YaLLa Compass Qatar ended up being a blessing in disguise, because it gave YaLLa a cop-out. It gave them a perfectly valid reason to just pull the plug on the tournament and move it online and reduce the prize money from $600,000 to $300,000. It was a cop-out for them, pretty much. But yeah, at the start of the year, I put out a report about how the tournaments, about how CCT and YaLLa were not complying with the rules set by Valve for these tournaments, and how Valve itself instructed us, HLTV, to set those tournaments as unranked because they were not following the regulations. But when it comes to prize money, most people didn't know that this was going on, right? And it was a huge shock to a lot of people that when I told them that, there's a very strong chance that YaLLa is not going to be paying you prize money. We're talking about, for example, Navi Junior there. These guys are just kids who just starting their careers right now. Most of them moved to the Turkish organization, Foot Esports. Makazi got promoted to Navi, but they were still very young players, right? 17, 18 years old. They're just starting out, and now they were supposed to be getting $75,000, which is a big deal for them, right? And they just, I had to be the one telling them there's a very strong chance you're not going to get your money. So that's always a very bad situation. And when I started looking into this, it was around the middle of July, and it was Eternal J who reached out to me. Shout out to him for doing that. It's not easy. He was telling me, okay, so there's a group of talent who have not been paid for the past 3 YaLLa Compass tournaments, and we gave them a deadline. We're thinking about putting out an open letter in case they don't get back to us. And that's how I started looking into this, but I never expected it to be this big. I never expected them to owe this much money to this many people. It goes as far back as December 2023, which is crazy, right? And some of those teams who were owed money back then were still competing in those tournaments. Like, what is going on, right? For example, Bad Boom, they are owed over $60,000, and the first tournament that they're still owed prize money from was the one that was held in December 2023, and despite that, they were still attending those tournaments in 2024. They went to the LAN to the LAN tournament that the Mongols won, which is crazy. They still kept playing in those tournaments even though they were still they were owed a lot of money. But yeah, after the chat that I had with Eternal J, I started reaching out to more people. I got to talk to some of the employees who were working there at the company, and it was like it just kept snowballing. Everyone that I talked to had like, oh, have you talked to this person? Have you talked to that person? Until I got to the commercial director, which was by far the worst story. Well, it was one of the craziest stories I've ever heard in esports, right? The guy who was supposed to come in and fix everything, magically fix everything. He had to relocate from Europe to Dubai, and he had
the fact they didn't even pay him is crazy too. He lost money joining their team. It's better.
He had to borrow money from friends and family. That's crazy.
So before we get into that part of the story here, guys, so basically what has happened now is, to summarize, YaLLa had their initial tournament in 2025. Valve stripped them of their rank status, which meant that it caused a lot of problems, obviously, for teams participating, because basically big teams only want to compete in events that have big prize pools and have ranked points, because that's being part of the circuit. And the reason why they had this pulled was because they were basically up to some shenanigans with not following Valve's rules on which teams you have to invite, because there's a whole process to like, here are the teams, you have to invite X number of teams from this way, you have to have open qualifiers. Basically, they, as I understand it, Luis, they were not having qualifiers for this event. They were doing direct invites instead, correct?
For the first one, no, they were just mislabeling everything. Sorry, it was it was several months ago. Just one second. They were just messing up the stages of the tournament and the invites. Yeah, that it was completely a bit different from what CCT did, because CCT, they were partnered with Grid, which is like this data company, and they had this like shadow ban system where players and teams that they suspect of cheating and match fixing cannot get invited to those tournaments. But this, as the name implies, it's a shadow ban system. It's not something that is publicly available. And according to Valve's regulations, either you follow the VRS to a T, as in you have to follow our ranking and invite all the teams according to the ranking, or you have to be very specific and publicly announce why you cannot invite this or that team, right? So this would mean this would force CCT to say, okay, we cannot invite this team or that team because we suspect them of match fixing or cheating or whatever, and this would be grounds for a lawsuit. CCT will not risk putting themselves in that position, because their teams and organizations could very easily file lawsuits against CCT, because there are no legal basis for that, right? It was never proven that those teams committed match fixing or were involved in any cheating incidents, even though I have reasons to believe that there was something very shady and something very wrong with some of those teams and players. But again, that's not a very transparent system. And when Valve came up with the VRS system, it was all for transparency. But yeah, as with everything in Counter-Strike, we're dealing with murky waters here. But yeah.
So by the time that we reached the current point in time, like there is a massive crisis of previous prize money not being paid out. Like the majority of the $1 million is prize money, right? And then there's also, they weren't paying their staff for several months. So it's also the people everybody got fucked, guys. Everybody got fucked. The teams that participated got fucked. The staff got fucked. Who else, Luis, got fucked in this?
Former employees,
broadcast talent.
The broadcast talent
that was working in those tournaments. They were owed over $30,000. The production company that was running the tournament, we're talking about, and this is NGES, production company based in Pakistan. They were owed a lot of money as well. And we're talking about one of the former teams that they had, Honor of Kings, a team that they supported until they pivoted the organization to an agency. So we're talking about 2022. They got this roster, I think it was in February or March 2022. At the end of the year, they went to the biggest tournament, like the World Championship in Honor of Kings, and they won $250,000 because of that. And only a few months later, YaLLa was like, okay, we're shutting down the esports side of things, but we'll still pay you guys. Don't worry. You know, in June 2023, they finally get the money from Tencent, and the players are like, okay, so where's our money? Why haven't we got our money? And Klaus had a meeting with everyone on the team, and it was like, okay, so contractually, we are entitled to a 20% cut of the prize money. Fairly standard in esports, okay? But, you know, since our company is so busy right now, we're involved in so many projects at the same time, if you guys want your money right now, I'm going to have like to pay my staff like extra money just so they can sort this out right now. And so this means we have to take an additional cut of the prize money. And also it was substantial.
I like the way he's operating this, like that shit where like people who predatory loans are given to like poor people where they're like, you can cash and check now for half the money. Like, what are we doing? This is like fucking, they won a massive tournament.
Yeah. It was a substantial cut from what I got told. And the two people, the manager and one of the players said that, okay, we'll just get our money right away, even though it's a smaller cut, but it's fine. And I think it's smart on them because, you know, if you've been in esports long enough, you know.
Did they get the money?
They did. They did. If you've been in esports,
they won in the end.
It's better to get some of a percentage of something than nothing at all, right? But yeah,
that was a smart move. You know, I agree.
Yeah, as time went on, the majority of the roster went to another organization, also based in the Middle East, called Stalwart Esports, and they were like, "Okay, can you guys help us with that?" And they apparently, what I got told is that they put some pressure on Klaus to pay the money. You know, whatever that means, I don't know exactly. I know exactly what that means, but they put some pressure on Klaus and they paid the prize money to everyone who was with Stalwart Esports right away, okay? But
that sounds like that could have an amazing action movie based around how they indeed got them to pay that. Because I agree, the word pressure there sounds really tantalizing. Yeah. But again, let's just imagine what might have happened.
Yeah, but still, some of the players and coaches and everything that were part of the team who did not move to Stalwart Esports are still owed money to this day. We're talking about a fee in the region of $50,000. And one of the players that I talked to was Abdul. He's from Egypt. He was telling me, okay, so this was in 2023. I'm owed something like $25,000. I could have bought a house with that money, right? It will never see that money, you know. He was thinking about going to Dubai to file like a lawsuit, but it's so expensive and chances are he'll never get any of that. So he just said, okay, there's no point in me doing that.
Yeah. The thing is about lawsuits is they actually have to have money to pay you because you can win the lawsuit, but if there's no money, then you don't get money.
And you have to fund it yourself as well. You need money yourself to fund the lawsuit. Who the fuck wants to do any of this? I also, by the way, as pointed out by that example of the guy from Egypt, the other thing I feel really bad about in cases like that is this isn't just like some person who's like an American guy who's like, oh, if esports doesn't work out, I'm just going to go do college. Like, these might be people where that might actually be life-changing money for them. Yes. When they won, they might have thought,
life-changing money,
I made it. Like, yeah, I could actually like fucking buy a house, like you say. Like, it's so dope. Like in my country, this is amazing, and they'll never see a cent of the money. That's sadly that is the esports tragedy. That's one of the classic tales.
Yeah, that's the worst part of esports for sure. And yeah, you know, when I started looking into this, I started talking to teams, Navi Junior, for example, and Big. Have you guys got your money? No, we still haven't been paid. Do you know anything about YaLLa? Okay, so I don't want to be the one to give you the bad news, but I'm I have reasons to believe you will not be getting anything because they are pretty much just shutting down. You know, and even I talked to Mongols and then IP was this is very sad. You know, for example, this was during Cologne and Mongols were making a deep run in Cologne, so this was right during the playoffs, and I was talking to their social media manager who has very good English. It was like, okay, when are you thinking about putting out the story? I was thinking, okay, maybe the start of August or something like that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, because if you were to put out the story right away, it will have like a negative impact on our players. And as someone from Mongolia getting like $50,000, that's a lot of money, right? So it's very sad that something like this could have such a negative impact on the players that would affect their performance in the tournament. But yeah, I have reasons to believe, and according to my reporting, that the prize money owed is in the region of $700,000, and salaries we're talking $150,000. There's also a former employee who filed a lawsuit against YaLLa, and the courts ruled in his favor. We're talking about roughly $270,000 plus the production company, plus the talent, plus freelancers, plus. Talking easily. I think by my calculations, almost we're talking about close to $2 million.
Yeah, I was going to say it's definitely. I think it's closer to two than one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to talk about you referenced this earlier, Luis, but the guy who was brought in order to be their commercial director, so basically a salesman for the league. And one of the things that he was told that I found very interesting was that they had two main sponsors and were doing well. And you wrote that one of these sponsors pumped $1.5 to $2 million into the company a year. Now, Luis, I ran Flashpoint. I find it extremely difficult to believe that they had a sponsor paying $1.5 to $2 million a year to a tournament of that size in 2024 and 2025. That seems like total bullshit to me.
Could be, but that's a picture that it got sold. I know that they had a bunch of, they were partnered with 1xBet, for example, and BetBoom. BetBoom, for example, also I think BetBoom had the rights to the Russian broadcast, for example. They were partnered with the data company. I think it was Odin, for example. So they had some partners. I don't know exactly how much money they were pumping into the business, but that's the picture that it was sold prior to joining the company. And he told me that when he joined and when he moved to Dubai, he had to rent an Airbnb for that. He got told about the 1xBet situation, which he had not been told beforehand. Keep that in mind. And he got told, this is happening.
Let's define the 1xBet situation first, because did we touch on that enough? So the 1xBet situation is also very interesting because it ties into them getting their ranking status removed by Valve, right?
No. This was for the tournament in Qatar. So
the tournament, the one that went online.
YaLLa had an agreement with 1xBet that they would be getting $250,000 for running as a sponsorship deal for the event in Qatar, which was supposed to be a tier 1 event on LAN with some of the best teams in the world, right? But instead, what YaLLa did in the end was a tier 2 online competition that had like a peak viewership of 30,000 people and had just some smaller teams in the end, right? So as you can imagine, 1xBet was unhappy with this, and they reached an agreement with YaLLa. You have to pay us back $160,000 of the $250,000 that we gave you for this tournament because you did not deliver on what was promised, right? And the same thing goes to some of the other companies that YaLLa was partnered with for this tournament. BetBoom, for example, also confirmed to me that they did not deliver on what was promised. And another company that did not want to be named also said that they owed us something around 200,000 euros. So we're talking about they sold the idea to a lot of the sponsors that they'd be doing a tier 1 LAN event with some of the best teams in the world, and that's how they were able to get I guess hundreds of thousands of dollars in sponsorship fees for the tournament. That in the end they delivered something completely different.
So he was not aware of the 1xBet situation, the fact that they had drastically had their sponsorship reduced. So we will continue now with the commercial director's story.
Yeah. So he pretty much got in Qatar. He got told that, so in order for me to move to Qatar, I want a relocation package that is a month's salary. And for the first couple of months, I'll just rent an Airbnb. Then I'll find, a permanent
By the way, rental. Giant red flag that they would not be paying for the Airbnb for him after he moves out there. Like, enormous red flag, because if you're getting relocated, you typically are offered corporate housing. By the way, there are tons, especially in Dubai, there has to be a ton of corporate housing. In any major city, there are fully furnished apartments.
You'd think they'd have the hookup, wouldn't you? That they'd have their own people,
For example, I got corporate housing when I moved from Korea to the Overwatch League. Blizzard provided that for me when I moved, alongside the relocation stipend, right? But in any case, even if it was just an Airbnb, it is very weird that YaLLa wouldn't be on the YaLLa credit card. You know what I mean? Very weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, it started
Continue.
on May the 1st, and by that point, they were already running in the red. They already had no money to pay for salaries. So it was a very bad situation.
So
He
they
was not aware of any of that.
scammed a salesman to come to them, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure he could have done that job not
remotely.
in Dubai. Yes. It's not like the Europe to Middle East time zones are like outrageous or anything. And also, he would probably be mostly talking to companies that were in Europe or America anyway, and
sure,
not
they'd be
in
flying
the Middle
anywhere
East.
to have to meet people and do the in-person meeting and all that shit. You'd imagine, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So anyway, the whole thing is just strange. But they basically scammed him, as far as I can tell, to come out there and work for them to get money so they could pay their debts. Yes. While not telling him that they didn't have any money.
By the way,
and
the
weren't
best
gonna pay
part,
him.
Monty,
That
is
fucked
again,
up.
you have to appreciate that this isn't nowhere like the modern big esports kind. This is an old school, like I say, with Richard and the Source ones. This smacks of some like 2010 shit, because what I love as well is they're doing the classic esports cargo cult thing of, well, just get some sponsors in it and they'll give us money, which is like, that's the dumbest but the most original, like, stupid esports take of all time. Like, just get a guy and he'll get us money.
The entire tournament system back in the day was essentially, we rob Peter to pay Paul, and we can just do that ad nauseum, and eventually we'll get to a point where we don't need to do that. ESL used to run like that. I mean, essentially what you did was you ran a tournament, you got people to come and play at the tournament, you then couldn't pay them the money because you didn't ever have it. So the money earned from the sponsors and everything essentially enables you to power the tournament, but not the prize money. But that's okay, because then we run another tournament, and what we do is we get that money in there, and we give some of that money out in prize money to the previous tournament.
It's basically like a pyramid scheme.
And we tell the existing guys, hey,
well, it's a Ponzi scheme, is what it is.
It's gonna be a while before your prize money, but don't worry. And then they run another tournament. One of the things Luis was talking about earlier, where it was like teams are still entering tournaments run by people that already owe them money. This is also like old school esports thinking, like I remember Odie telling me, like, this was in, I don't even know when it would have been. Like, last time I saw Odie in person, it was probably in it must have been like 2020, 2021. We were at some conference, and we were just having a chat and a catch up, and he said something like, still owed that CPL money. It's like 75 grand or something that he's still owed from like CPL. And it's just like, yeah, like you enter the tournaments, you keep confidence in the tournaments, because actually it doesn't behoove you to call out a tournament organizer or a sponsor or anyone that owes you money, because then if other people come out and go, they owe me money too. They owe me money too. It's like a run on a bank. You know what I mean?
And the fucked up logic goes, if you're the one who speaks out, then when they do pay a couple of people before the end,
you'll be the last one.
You'll be the one there'll be reprisals against you. So unfortunately, in a way, you're actually selfishly almost incentivized to not speak out.
Yeah, and so it really, really sucks. And then on top of that, you've also got the fact that and this was another thing that was ultimately at the heart of the downfall of YaLLa. There is one type of company you definitely cannot fuck with when it comes to deliverables, and that's the gambling companies. They've got the money, but they've also got the bean counters to track everything you're supposed to be doing. And if you don't deliver, you don't get the scratch. They don't really care too much about the tournament. All a gambling sponsorship wants is an event that they can populate their esports section with, so people go and bet on the games. That's it. That's all it's about. Doesn't matter whether it breaks even. Doesn't matter about how much they've got to pay. The bottom line is they believe it's worth it, because every single new bettor you bring into your platform, they don't just bet on an esports game. Eventually they get bored and they bet on a football game, or they bet on a UFC event or a heavyweight boxing event, and they lose. And by losing, the gambling company wins. So they drop $1 million or whatever it is into these meaningless tournaments that don't have any prestige or history. They get all the official VRS ranking points for Valve because they comply to their standards. Obviously, YaLLa didn't. Same with Sky Esports in India. And then what they do is they just run these stupid events, these stupid, boring shit, worthless events, and it's great for the gambling companies. They say, hey, we can sell our broadcast exclusively to Kick, make some money. You know, who knows? But with YaLLa, what they did was they simply didn't hit the deliverables. They offered them at one type of tournament, it wasn't that. So they didn't even get the gambling money bag, which is crazy. To fumble that bag is insane because they don't really care about.
And also, this wasn't like during the COVID era where it was just like, in some of these clauses, like there are force majeure clauses, obviously, where like nobody could have anticipated how you would have to change tournaments during the pandemic, right? And also, objectively, esports tournaments did very well during the pandemic because nobody had anything else to do and traditional sports weren't on, right?
We were on lockdown, especially in the early days of COVID passports.
Exactly. So, I'm just going to say, as somebody who ran tournaments that changed, they weren't too upset based on those circumstances. But in a post-pandemic world, those kind of changes are very, I would imagine, bad.
So, yeah, I mean...
Also because the quality of the teams was very different.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now, if you've been lugging a giant decaying wallet around in your pocket for too many years, now is the time to, of course, switch to Ridge. Here's my carbon fiber wallet. I have the money strap at the back, but if you don't want that, you could just make it even more sleek. Now, what does Ridge do? It holds up to 12 cards. You can pop them out just like that and have access. It is much thinner and virtually indestructible. Can slide easily in your pocket without making unsightly bumps on your front or back pockets of your pants. Not only that, but if you go now and get a Ridge wallet, they are doing their legendary sweepstakes for the 5th time. 2 lucky winners will get to choose between a $280,000 Lamborghini Huracan Starato, a $100,000 Hennessy Velociraptor, or straight up $100,000 in cash. So lots of options. You get a great wallet that will have a lifetime warranty, and you'll get entered into their sweepstakes. There's over 50 different colors and styles. They even have if you have a favorite NFL team, they have an NFL collaboration right now. But lots of different, some very flashy ones, some very understated ones, depending on what your style is. And they don't only have wallets, they have key cases, suitcases, rings, and they're all built with the same sleek, durable design. So no matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty on all their products. Ready to upgrade your wallet and maybe your ride? For a limited time, head over to ridge.com and use code HORSEMAN, singular, M-A-N, at checkout for 10% off your order and a chance to win Ridge's biggest sweepstakes ever, a Lamborghini Huracan Starato, a Hennessy Velociraptor, or $100,000 in cash. No purchase necessary to enter, but every dollar you spend gets you more entries. That's ridge.com and use code HORSEMAN. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them the Four Horsemen sent you.
Yeah, which is the other problem. It's like this cascading series of failures to sort of end up where, if you think the sponsor is going to bail you out, well, you've still got to go and do the thing the sponsor wants. That's been the big problem. I mean, this is one of the biggest, untold secrets in all of esports. The reason we are now an entirely Saudi-owned enterprise, it's split between mostly Saudi, gambling websites, a little bit of China, right? That's what we've got. The reason we're left with that is no one actually ever fucking does what they say they're going to do to the sponsors or the investors or anybody. There is no return of investment on esports because no one cares about that. They just go to a sponsor. Yeah, what do you want? Well, scan computers? Yeah, listen, everyone loves scan computers. We'll sell you 1 million scan computers. Yeah, totally. We got the fan base to do that. Everyone, our fans, they totally spend money. They definitely do. And then, they sell 40 PCs off a 1 year long campaign where they've paid $1 million, dollars from it. And it's just fucking so ridiculous. And they go away and they never come back. That is the fundamental problem. And if if YaLLa and other companies start doing it to the betting websites, they might just bring things in-house. They might just start having their own production company and running their own tournaments instead of sponsoring other people and outsourcing it. And once again, we've killed another fucking golden goose. That's the other mad part about esports. We've had like in the fable, there's only one goose that lays the golden egg. And the dickhead who has it gets greedy, hacks it open with an axe, thinking there'll be loads of golden eggs inside, which isn't even how a goose that lays regular eggs works, right? And he ends up with fuck all. And that's the moral of the story. Like, don't get greedy. Well, in esports, we've had a flock of geese that lay golden eggs. They shit golden eggs everywhere, and we've slaughtered them. And now we go, well, we've still got that Saudi bag. We still got that gambling bag. Yeah, for now. So YaLLa are just, like I said, there's some insane atavistic throwback to an era of esports I thought was essentially dead, but I guess not.
Bygone era, but no.
Yeah, exactly. I guess the problem we've got is that, like, you're still going to see these things happen over and over and over and over and over again in esports because the industry's just ripe for it. Especially when you don't even keep tabs on the people that scammed you the first time. Like, we've just let a guy that ran a team org and didn't pay its players, we've just given him a bigger budget and said run a tournament. What? That's what we're doing now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and over the years, the whole MO was, okay, if we don't have any money, we'll just wait for a new sponsor to come in or for a partner to pay money in advance. And that's what they did with some of the partners that they had, is that these partners would pay money in advance and they would, use this money to cover some of the debt that they had. But, not only did they not have any money, but they also owed money to 1xBet in this case, for example, they had to pay them back, some of the money that they got for the event in Qatar, which was then moved online. But, as I was saying, in May, the staff didn't get paid for May and June, but they just thought it was just another instance of the company going through some issues. Eventually, a sponsor will just come in and the money will come through and everyone will get paid. That's what they thought. At the time, and they were supposed to be getting a substantial fee that was supposed to cover at least the outstanding May salaries that was supposed to come in. But from what I got told by multiple people, their bank account got frozen, so there was no money. They didn't have access to the bank account.
Yeah.
By the way, another thing as well is one of the things I think people have to try and consider is the position each person who got scammed is in the industry. Because two sets of people that I feel very sorry for, because I actually don't know that, I'll just say, I think there are no safeguards that would allow these people to ever actually avoid this trap, and that they would have to almost willingly fall into it. And that is the teams attending the tournament and the talent working the tournament. And here's why. Because as pointed out, here's the difference, Luis. Last year, when they had that YaLLa Compass, it was just a tier 2 tournament, tier 3 tournament, whatever. And if you chose to attend it was like attending any event. It's up to you if you want to attend another event extra, or you go to it because, you didn't make like a blast or something like that, right? The problem is this year, VRS means actually, if they have the VRS points, it doesn't matter if you've heard a story that they might not pay out from last year. Like, you have to go to get the VRS points. Yeah. Like, that is the world that it's become in Counter-Strike. And by the way, the same exact principle is why if you're talent, then you have to work the event. Because at the end of the day, if you're talent and you hear the event has all the fucking teams and you're a lesser talent, you need to get your name up. You need to be on events that have all the teams there. So sadly, I feel like actually these people, even if you didn't know them, you might not get the money. In a fucked up way, the talent might attend for the dreaded exposure and the teams might attend just for the VRS points. Like, the joke is, they even made this joke on Talking Counter. Moses did it as a joke, but it's actually a serious point. He even said, like, even if they did rip you off and not give you any of the money, are the VRS points real though? Because if they are, in a way, they actually have value in a fucked up sense. Like, you need those. If people don't know, Monty, right now it's gotten so bad with VRS. People are literally world famous esports orgs, Monty, are attending like what were like community lands in like fucking America and Poland, bro. Like lands where, again, this is why I feel like we've gone back in time 20 years. Like, what are you talking about? Like that, like NIP is attending a local land in Philadelphia. What are you talking about? Like, this is some shit that doesn't happen in the modern day.
Also, it is incredibly naive if Valve thought that the teams wouldn't scam this shit. Because, this is why I appreciate Messioso. And by the way, Messioso is now no longer GMing Complexity. So if you need a guy who will find every fucking
I've
loophole
never
in the rules,
tweeted
By the way, how perfect is that as well? What an ultimate curse of Cassandra this guy has. Now he doesn't have his own job, thanks to me. Good job, guys. Good job,
I'd
everyone.
never
Thanks.
tweet it. The Counter-Strike account or the Valve account. I find all that tedious, when you people.
Of course. Hey, at Counter-Strike, fix your game, man. Stop making
did
charm.
it for this. I did it for this because.
Oh, come on.
I mean, he can fix
being
it. Like,
hired by Valve to run VRS would actually fix a lot of the problem.
It's the biggest slam dunk of all time. He's one of the only people who actually likes that shit and understands it.
Well, he's got that good tism. He's got that fucking superpower. Like I tried to understand the algorithm myself. I should be able.
It's boring as fuck, isn't it,
But
mate?
bro,
I know it's too
like
bad.
I went to that
can't do it.
GitHub and I'm just staring at it. It's just bollocks.
Mate, I did the same thing. I thought, you know what? I'm an adult. I pay my own taxes. I can do this. I was just doing that thing like the numbers basically.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, honestly,
because it's like a massive
even when
equation.
Graham is
I can't be
explaining
arsed,
it to
mate.
me, because if I'm going to make a point, I don't even dare tweet about VRS. I'll run it by Graham first, right? And so he explains it to me in like, baby English, like, right? I still don't get it. It still fucks my brain. So yeah, please, Valve, who definitely watch this show.
and by the way, I mean, any TO, Valorant and Riot could use this guy. They make stupid ass mistakes all the time.
Yep.
Last week, the LEC commissioner changed the rules in the middle of the split because he was too dumb to redline the rules from the previous split and the rules from this split to notice that something was missing. Okay, this is the level of competence that we're fucking dealing with. Can somebody please just get Messioso, who loves doing this stuff and is really good at it? Because we will not have these problems anymore. Because he will, especially now that he's coming from the team side. So he's like, well, this is how I would abuse this system.
Yeah,
please. Anyway.
But yeah, back to YaLLa. I think it's funny because it does kind of tie on when we talk about like it being a low competence industry. It's like, at what point does this guy Klaus Kajetski, which I still can't believe he's got jet ski in his?
It's all the day-to-day, mate. It's like a bad script writer and all.
Like fucking Percy Porsche or fucking Larry Lamborghini. Right, but like, at what point? Like, all you have to do when, right, the ship is careering towards an iceberg. All you have to do, realistically, is go, it's going to be really bad if we do hit that iceberg. So I should probably, like, reverse course, slow down, change course. I've got a bunch of options here at this stage. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to assume we don't change course, and the iceberg might move out the way. So, he's just doing... that's literally what he did.
And one of the craziest parts is that in February 2025, they instructed staff to work on a pitch for the major, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they were so confident that they would be getting a major that they started talking to prospective partners about sponsorship opportunities for a major that there's very little chance that they would get, okay? And from what I got told by...
It would surely cost millions, You'd spend a lot of money to run a major.
And from what I got told, their idea was that we're going to run a major and we're going to sell the license of the major to another company, which is crazy because this is something that has never happened in Counter-Strike.
Yes.
And Valve would never approve
Valve
this.
would never allow it.
But that was
You think Valve would approve that?
Yeah.
That was their rationale.
Valve, let me just subcontract this major for you.
Yes.
I'm subletting the major. It's not actually my major. He's running it instead. He'll be out by the weekend.
It's just crazy.
Or like reselling some Yeezys or something.
And also, at the
start
of this year, they reached out to the Mongols to invite them to the event in Qatar, knowing that they still hadn't paid them for the last year's tournament. They still haven't sent them the trophy. And they were like, we're not going to play in your tournament until either you send us the money or you give us like a very solid update and you send us the trophy, which they never got in the end, which is the lack of accountability, and the ballsiness on their part. it's just crazy, you know. It's just insane.
By the way, one thing about that guy who they brought in to be the marketing guy who was going to get the sponsors that would save them with the Peter PayPal logic is there's even an element of that is one of the craziest red flags you ever hear in the esports industry. Because the problem with this red flag is it gives away that this isn't just borderline incompetence or like an accident. This is someone maliciously and malevolently conning people, which is any time they don't pay you, and it's not that they just don't reply to your email or that it's slow or it doesn't come with a problem. It's when they always claim like some sort of weird logistical problem. But you haven't filled out this 7-1A form, because in his case they were saying he needed like a special bank account in Dubai or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Whenever they do that, well, the problem with that is no matter how many hoops you jump through, they're just wasting your time doing that. When you jump through the hoops, you still get the money at the end. So the problem I have is this: that does imply you're trying to deceive the person. You know what I mean? You actually know that this isn't really the thing that'll fix it. The classic one in esports that people don't know. In fact, ESL themselves were notorious for this.
ESL
one, is claiming like, so you would basically, I always used to say to the talent who would complain about this, like, you're so obviously being worked, because remember, this is like 2020, whatever year I'm talking about right now. Like, there isn't really like the 1990s, bro, where you have to go into an office and an old guy goes, let me check in this book here, like some Harry Potter shit, and then like scribbles down in a legend. No, it's not coming in until the end of the month. Like, it's computers, man. They all instantly transfer.
By the way,
but they would always claim some weird accounting issue and deficiency, you know, which magically turns out you didn't have the money anyway, did you? Come on.
This was obviously a long time ago, but when ESL was not owned by the Saudis, and I have no idea what their payments are like these days, but I will tell you the number of times I was told by ESL,
here we go.
Oh, well, our accounting system changed.
Yeah. The old they changed their accounting
all of it in this
pretty
new
much
format
every month consistently for a period of
weird.
fucking 8 years.
It's weird. It sounds like it's causing a lot of problems. You guys should probably stick with just one that works. Why keep changing it? I know it's weird, isn't it?
And they use that
ESL
excuse with Sam, with Tecker as well. You know, they will, the person who is charged with payments has left the company, so now there's a handover process, and that's why payments will be made late. So they use that on her as well. It's insane.
I mean, look, they're doing that. There's another tournament right now that's doing this. I won't name them yet, just out of respect for the broadcast talent waiting on their money.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think I know the one you're referring to. Yeah.
You definitely do. And it's just so it's just so fucking insane that we're running this type of game on people. Understand as well, like, but right, being a freelancer now, right, I've made some erroneous predictions. When VRS happened and we started getting, I was like, this is going to be really good for the scene. I'll tell you why. We're going to get more tournaments. Teams are going to be able to pick and choose which ones they go to earn their points. We're going to get a better variance of games. We're not going to see the same matches every week, right? So I've been totally wrong on all of this so far. And the other thing I said was, it's going to be really good for the talent that are in that tier 2. And again, I hate the use of the tiers. But, you know, that tier 2, the people that maybe don't get to work the prestige events, but now there's going to be more work for them. It's never been worse. It's never been worse. Like, these people are on their fucking knees, and they are trying desperately to be like, okay, well, if I get a Fissure, and if I get a YaLLa, and a Bet Boondaka, I could probably keep being a caster for one more year. Like, that's where they're at, right? And when these people don't pay, it is unconscionable, because what they also do to the talent in the same way they do it to the teams, they string them along. They say, look, we need you for the next one. It's going to be a lot of work, and then we'll pay you there. Don't worry.
But they'll straight up ghost you.
By the way, that's also a classic one, Richard, as well. They do it, teams and talent. A classic one is, but when you work the next event, we'll be able to give you the first check or something, or that we'll be able to open some funds up. They always try to hook you into it like that as well.
People like Jay, right? Like Turtle Jay, right? Jamie, he's been in that tier for a long period of time. He's done some B streams and stuff with ESL. He's a great guy. And he is now saying he might have to retire. Like, he might have to quit, because he's literally having to move money around and change budgetary expectations, because he's already worked hours and hours and hours of being a caster, which, by the way, I know the fans are dog shit. Right, and so what they do, you should get good, bro. Like, work at Cologne.
Hey, put the fries in the bag, bro.
Exactly.
Put the fries.
Like, of course, if it was their parents
time,
saying, "Listen, kids, right, we're gonna have to move," or no, you can't have the new Nintendo or whatever the fuck it is, then suddenly it'd be a tragedy.
And so you are right, as much when you say it like that. That's the saddest thing. Our fan base is so trash. Like, who cares anyway? He's not machine, is he? Like,
As long as I can listen to Sponge and Machine every day. I mean, by the way, just unrelated. Harry and Hugo are doing the final of the Esports World Cup, right? And there's an immediate thread going, I think that they're just not up to it. Well, what? All we need is just two casters to cast every game. And it's just your favourite caster and no one else should be... It's just your favourite caster pairing and no one else should get a goal.
And it's bad when even Anders has talked about this issue, right? And we're talking about Anders, the voice of Counter-Strike, right?
The voice of Counter-Strike. Well, listen, I'll say this. I love Anders like family. He does love a bad goal.
Here? I'm scared. I'm so scared right now.
Just saying. Right. Okay. So, love you, Anders. Miss you, legend. But no, obviously, it is bad. If people like Anders, who've been like ubiquitous in the tier 1 scene, are literally saying, "I'm struggling to get employment. I'm struggling to make money." Yeah, I mean, put it this way: Anders is essentially course corrected, and he's worked a few events. I'm sure he's going to do some PGLs probably across the rest of 25 and 26. But like people like Vince, Vince is another guy who's like. Just been. He's like, listen, I might not be able to do this anymore. Yeah, and he's owed money, and he's only owed a tiny amount. Sam that we've talked about, like Tech Girl, she's only owed a little bit. But these guys, the stalwarts of tier 2, the Eternal Jays, the Dwegs, they're all owed so much money because this is their bread and butter.
Oh yeah, by the way. One thing, because this episode doesn't have a lot of laughs, does it? So I've got to fucking reach where I can, boys. I will say, even though I understand what she meant by the phrasing in that article, where Tech Girl was in your article saying she was owed money, the way it gets to that part where she actually tries to make a compassionate point that she's not owed anywhere near as much as other people, but she makes it by saying something like, now, $2,000 to me is not going to cause a big problem. I was thinking, good, weird flex. Bit of an inappropriate moment of flex on them there, Tech.
No.
What are you doing, Sam? Fucking hell. They're
start calling her bad girl. She's got,
okay, I know.
$2,000 now.
Like,
spend that in a night.
Like, just films a TikTok. I know, I'm set on fire right now with a cigar. Fuck YaLLa Compass and Vince.
No, but I mean, obviously, the point is, if you are working these tier 1 events, it's very good for the tier 1 people. Like right now, like that's the crazy thing. The haves and the have-nots have never been further apart in terms of disparity. And what's also crazy,
and you also need the tier 2 people, and you need a healthy tier 2 scene because, guys, do you know where a lot of the current top Counter-Strike casters came from? They weren't the ones that were there 5 years ago doing the top tier events. They came from this fucking system, guys. So you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
If you have a tier 2 like this, where it's either you go to a LAN and don't get the money, or you work an online match with the same teams that'd be at the bottom of a tier 1 tournament, but you get paid $100, then there also will only be a very, very limited group of tier 1 talent. And the second you drop out of tier 1 talent, if you are Anders, etc., you will just go and get a real world job. You won't then go, I can now go from 100k to making 20k maybe, and I have to work every hour of the night. Like, you can't. That's also you need the tier 2 circuit. That's what people forget. Just like with teams, you need a space that when an IP isn't good enough anymore, they're not literally playing at the LAN with me and Monty in the fucking Colorado in someone's basement. They have to actually have a circuit to go to work their way back up again. Like in sports, if you get relegated, you have to be able to come back up again. You need like a spillover area for talent and for teams. And if it's a total scam outside of like 3 tier 1 organizations, it's just going to be a wasteland where, like you say, it'll be the ultimate haves and have-nots. If you aren't in the haves, you're just fucked at that point. In fact, you'll probably exit esports is the sad part.
Yeah, I mean, it's just wild. And like, obviously, this is what I mean. It's like the damage that something like this does. It's not just like, oh, we ran a tournament, we went under, a bunch of people don't get paid. It's the fact that they didn't just run one tournament. They weren't just a fly-by-night, right? They employed people. They made people move to the country. They worked freelancers for dozens and dozens and dozens of hours that will now go unpaid. And all of those people are reliant on essentially just the promise of that money turning up and not evaporating. In the great pyramid of this scheme, it's actually the players I feel the least sorry for, because they are salaried no matter what. They're getting their money, they're getting paid to play. Prize money is ultimately a luxury, a bonus for performing well, and they certainly are getting vast amounts of prize money from all the tier 1 events that they're attending. I mean, especially when you consider, like, Mongols, right, live in Mongolia, live like kings, are worshipped by the people of Mongolia. They're like so well known and well established. They're in rap lyrics. They're on TV commercials. The people sit out in the square and have huge watch parties for their games.
We've seen all those shots of Ulaanbaatar and like the massive crowds watching them at these events. It's crazy.
You know what? If they didn't get their money, that wouldn't be the end of the world for them. That wouldn't be the end of the world. By the way, this isn't to say don't pay the Mongols, fuck Mongols, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I'm
just going to say, historically, spurning the Mongols has been a terrible idea.
Are we talking about Carthage again or something? Like, are we doing ancient history? Like,
don't tell the Mongols they can't have things.
I'm just saying, if you work through the golden steps of who appear first and foremost, like for the talent and the staff, it is a big deal. It really is a big deal.
Even and some of them will never be able to work in esports again.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. We're gonna lose a ton of people off the back of this.
And for one of the people that I talked to, he has been in esports for a decade now, and he said, "Okay, this is the final straw. I'll just go do something else because this is not."
And think about how many straws prior to this straw, because he's worked in esports for 10 years, right? So, like,
yes,
it's basically like I was going into the prison showers for 10 years, but this day was the last straw, right?
I do want to read this amazing quote that you got, Luis, by the commercial director about this whole situation.
Oh yeah, this guy was gold.
It goes like this. It's really funny. I feel terrible for him, but it is funny. It's genuinely a complete Mickey Mouse circus show of how to run a business. It's not serious. One thing I'm super frustrated by is that they hired me knowing all of this shit was going on. Why would anyone do that? Any normal person would never do that. Why would you put someone through that? If they knew they had no money, they should be like, well, we just won't hire any more people. It's just going to go under. We go down with the ship. To add more people to a sinking ship is crazy.
This person's so beautifully naive. I love the way they're just saying out loud all this. It's like, yeah, I agree with it all, but it's world, isn't it, mate? It's esports, Chinatown.
Well, but I just can't get over the fact that they thought that this guy was just going to like solve all their problems magically by they hire him.
Listen, Monty, he has access to the magical sponsor tree. Just go out and get us some sponsors' money in it.
And he actually got a sponsor. He actually got a sponsor worth just under $100,000. And he got the sponsorship deal, but luckily, the company went under, supposedly, right? Just before the deal was supposed to come into place. Yeah.
The other thing that's mad is, one, like that deal thing even points out the insanity of them bringing this guy in, like essentially at the 11th hour before their bust. Is Monty knows this as well from working with Flashpoint and with our own company. You don't get paid the day after you do the sponsor activation. Like that takes months and months as well. And guess what? If you ever deal with a dodgy sponsor, maybe they're slow to pay you. So I also think, by the way, that's why it's so naive to think this guy. By the way, I don't blame this guy at all. He never could have succeeded. Even if he'd have gotten $2 million worth of deals, they wouldn't have instantly paid out. These fuckers could have destroyed the company before then anyway. So, just sad. Just a fucking sad statement. And also, imagine, like he says, Mira, in your article, imagine being this guy going out there selling the deal and then finding out that basically the people that you've just got to sign on for the deal. So you've done your job, just like through the grapevine, like, oh yeah, this company's like dodgy anyway, so I wouldn't work with them. Like, you ruined the whole thing. Like, what was I doing all that work for? Yeah. Like, I was basically just like I accomplished the impossible. I got you the sponsor, and then they find out what's going on, so we don't even get the fucking sponsorship. This is garbage. I feel bad for that guy. It's funny because it's very rare that someone who himself was involved with the company would be somebody who's like blameless. But in this case, this guy was super naive. Like the idea, he not only didn't get his money, he's down 20k or something from going there and footing the bill for it all. Like Richard, listen, I am from the northeast of England. I get nervous when an event that's like a bona fide, like being in esports 20 years, definitely going to pay. I get nervous when they say, just book your own flight and fucking invoices for it. Say, Yeah, I'm not losing a flat. I would never do like 20K's worth of work. This guy's fucking lunatic.
I mean,
I
I'm
heard
just trusting they're going to pay.
You are a classic notorious northeastern tight ass.
I am.
So, like, you know.
I'll never do that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got told by a tournament admin who was a freelancer that he booked his own flights to Qatar for a LAN tournament that never took place. You know, he hasn't been reimbursed for that.
And then he's just
terrible.
like, why would they do this? But why would they ask me to come out when they know they can't pay? Don't they know that I'm going to lose? In a way, I almost love that. He has like a childlike naivety, this guy, that I sort of fuck with, even though, listen, it's tragic.
Yeah.
Don't work in this industry. You'll be dead within a year, mate. Get out. Just get out of this industry.
I mean, I'll add as well, the other thing that's really kind of sinister in this is the fact that they're declaring official bankruptcy, right? And so I've got a little bit of insight into how that all works. And obviously, you have a company typically come in, and what they do is they look at all of the assets and what they can sell off, right? If it's a tangible, physical asset, right? They might do an auction on, I don't know, like computers, PCs, whatever it might be, whatever you've got,
whatever,
right? Yeah, you sell it all off, and you look at the money, and it's whatever's in the bank account, right? Which we know is fuck all, and whatever you can make from the assets, etc. And then all the people that are owed money, they apply and say, like, you owe us this, you owe us that.
Well, usually Richard, hold up. Usually there's a priority to whose debt gets paid off first.
Yeah,
so
I was
if you're
getting
an
that.
investor. Yeah. All right, sorry. Yeah, I'll let you do it. Sorry for interrupting.
So then what happens is that company will essentially sift through who is the priority payments. It's kind of similar to what happens, by the way, when people die. You have a system called probate. And what happens there is, because some debts don't die with you, right? And some do. And obviously, depending on what your estate has, people get different amounts of cash. So anyway, the company that they're meant to be applying to, Klaus Kajetski is saying, yeah, don't email them, email us. Which is wild. Because that means he can then essentially pick and choose whose debts get through to this company. And also, it's got to be said, the company he's named as being the people handling the debt doesn't do that as a service.
Yeah. And I also got to the very, interesting detail. The company that is supposedly in charge of the liquidation is based in India. While it does operate in Dubai, it is based in India, and liquidation, bankruptcy is not one of the services they provide. So that their MO has always been, and this is what I got told by people who are in the company, is to try to outsource stuff, as cheaply as possible. They had a production company that was based in Pakistan. They had this, company that is now doing liquidation.
What services do they provide? Like, by the way, that's obviously the missing part of the joke. But what is that company contracted for? Just to like delay or something? What are they doing then?
Yeah, I don't know, just some other stuff, but not bankruptcy. But yeah, it is crazy.
They're gonna pay people out in like Amazon gift cards.
And from what I got told, that company may or may not have had previous ties to YaLLa and Klaus. That's what I got told.
Oh, mate, why does this feel like he goes, like the guy behind the jet ski guy goes, it's all right, guys, don't worry. I've got a company that's going to deal with this. The liquidators responsibly and pay everyone out via triage. Yeah. Then you call up that company. You go through like 4 shell companies. Yeah. Eventually you call up, it's just him. Like, yeah, hello. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do it soon. And you're like, it's me.
It is very shady.
It's fucking guy.
It sounds like total bullshit. I mean, I think basically it's like, look, a liquidation process does imply that someone is going to get paid something eventually, right? But if you are just closing a lemonade stand, or like you're like that fucking monorail salesman from fucking The Simpsons, and you're just moving on.
And remember that there's a bank account that is supposed to be frozen.
So there's
that.
Yeah. It's just
that's true.
It's just not happening.
But yeah, I mean, and to
it
this
sounds
day,
like total bullshit to me.
To this day, they still haven't provided any concrete details about the liquidator. They have given the name, but they haven't provided any means to contact them.
So it's like, what do you do?
There's that.
If you're owed money, it's like my point of contact is the guy that is deliberately not paying me my money.
Yeah, exactly.
I just love the idea that means this still hasn't even vaguely started to be concluded. Like, what next? Is the jet ski guy going to also then pay someone who looks suspiciously like his cousin to dress up like the police and on camera, arrest him, and be like, oh no, I'm being held in cells? It's just like his back of his office. Why is this whole thing such a massive scam? It's mental.
Yeah.
It never ends as well. The scam never ends.
I mean, it's super reminiscent, again, just to do another throwback. I remember we went, right, so there was a LAN tournament in Source. It was one of the first ever European LAN events where we were going to have people actually from like Finland and Denmark and Sweden, and they were going to come to the UK and play against the UK teams. UK teams famously being good in Source. And this guy had run it all, and he booked a LAN centre, a LAN cafe, and said, we're going to have it here. And everybody flew. Everybody paid their money, bought the tickets, paid the entrance fee. He announced the prize pool, the structure. We all knew. I mean, this is back in the day, by the way, where if you broke even at a tournament, you know, you were doing well. And anyway, everyone turned up. We get into the LAN centre, and we say, right, we're here for the competition. And they're like, what competition? Well, you know, the competition that's booked it.
The words you want to hear
and then
from
just
the
like,
people, really.
we don't know what you're talking about. And he just
took
all of the money that people had paid for the tickets, for the entrance fee, and ran away with it. And so essentially there was a guy called Gomez who used to be associated with Zboard. He hired the LAN cafe on his credit card. He was quite, you know, well-to-do businessman. And we tried to run a tournament. It never got finished, obviously. It was a fucking clusterfuck because there was no admins, no staff, no nothing. But we tried. We tried our best. Anyway, fast forward a few years, there's a new esports org, and they pick up a UK team, and they're going to events, and someone goes, their manager, it's that cunt, it's that guy who ran that LAN, that fake LAN.
Well, the goal to even go to an event again as well.
He changed his name. He was called like Zanubis. And then he changed his name to like Superfly, right? Which is just amazing.
Okay.
And then
interesting rebrand.
Sick rebrand. And then he just came to events like 2 years later. This is or something. You maybe
like it was nothing. Yeah.
And just turning up to events and goes, "Hey, I run an org now." And we're like, anyway, I did like an it got exposed on Cadred initially, and then I did like a piece of investigative journalism about it, which was when it drove Red Eye mad because he accused me of plagiarism, even though me writing an in-depth article.
I love it.
Them making a news post, me writing an in-depth feature, not the same thing, but fine.
And crazy idea. Maybe you aren't an expert.
But I wasn't working at Cadred at the time. This is back in the Gotfrag days, so I wasn't.
Maybe you just know Unreal Tournament and stayed all in on that one.
I wasn't in Red's corner back then. So.
By the way, speaking of which, there's also actually one of that era of classic esports scams of events that like either happen and they don't quite have the money or they don't pay out the proper way. There's actually also one like that going on at the moment in Counter-Strike if people don't know. Like, I won't say too much because I don't know how much is public, but I heard they even talked about this on the Talking Counter one. I think it's that Misa one or whatever, the one that's like, again, fully enough associated with the Mongols and from like Eastern Europe and this. I think this one's actually an Asian one. I think actually even is
Ulaanbaatar.
But this is the one where, as far as I know, they've been up to the classic shenanigans, which a lot of you will recognise, but will probably shock fans, which is where what you do is you go, the entrance fee is this much, but then if you ever sit down with a napkin and you add up all the entrance fees, they're just paying for the event with the entrance fees, Monty.
Yes.
So the joke is like, why am I paying you? Like, so they were like, I think they were trying to charge like $10,000 to be like in the qualifier or some shit, wasn't it? Like,
something just as crazy going on where tournament organizers will say that the sign-up fee is like, for example, 2,000 euros, but the prize money is in dollars, which is also crazy.
There you go.
Yeah. But that's happening right now.
These are the oldest scams in esports. Again, people don't know.
One of the
original ones, me and Lopez, literally 15 years ago, used to laugh about on Skype was I remember one day ESL did wake up. And at the time, like dollar, it's actually, it's funny enough, this is where everything comes around again. It's back to the thing where the euro's worth way more than the dollar. So what they did back in the day, Monty, was just change overnight from saying everything in euros because they were ESL to dollars, just so the amount was higher. So then when you say it was $1 million, it cost you less. Like this. Again, if we're doing scams, like maybe the person doesn't look at the symbol next to the number. Like, what are we even in industry at that point in time? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? What is?
I mean, it's even funnier in a game that like doesn't even have any American representation hardly
No,
anymore.
exactly. And you just Germans with all like European sponsors be like, we'll put it in dollars, $1 million.
Yeah, I mean,
Mental, innit? I know.
this really is like just a crazy throwback, like the whole YaLLa Compass stuff. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. Also, as well, the way that they announced that it was all over, a tweet that you
Amazing.
couldn't.
Oh, I actually love Richard. That is the funniest part. They abused that feature where
Yeah.
you can put that you can't reply unless you follow them or whatever. So you actually can't. You don't even get to do the tweet of "fuck you" on
No.
the way out because you can't reply to the tweet.
No, they
You don't even get
it's
the most
even worse than that,
minuscule
Duncan.
fucking
They used the super feature where it's if you're atted in the tweet, then you can reply.
Oh, so no one can, right? Fuck,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's
So
even
it's
worse.
the mega no reply
Fucking
tweet.
hell.
And so basically, they just said,
love it.
"Dear Counter-Strike
I love
community, the YaLLa Compass journey has come to an end. Thanks to each and every one of you who supported us." What does that mean? What do you mean it's come to an
Not
end?
even an apology either. Just like, thanks. It was a great
Again,
to see
reminiscent
you.
of the CGS, like where it was just one day the CGS was there and we all had a job, and then that morning an email was sent out. Yep, the CGS will be terminating its operations. Thanks for participating. And the website was deleted. All the videos were gone. You're like, what?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
also crazy part is the meeting where Klaus announced that the company was winding down and they were filing for liquidation. He was like, okay, so this is a very emotional for me, I put a lot of money into this, I've been through so many I've sacrificed so much, it was like he put his head down.
Okay.
I just wish there was a recording of this, but sadly no one recorded this.
I mean, that's also, by the way, guys, if you're going into these town halls, record them, always record them.
Secretly,
It
It was like, oh yeah, so I was the first one to join this company. I wanted to be the last one to exit the meeting, so please just leave the call. It was like this. He didn't entertain questions or anything, according to
that
what I got
reminds
told,
me.
but
There's an Alan Partridge episode, right, where basically he's got his own production company which he has to liquidate, and because he didn't get a second series with the BBC, he has to go in and tell all of his staff that essentially they've got no job, and they all go like, "Oh, did we get the second series, Alan?" And he goes, yeah, we did. And they go, "Oh, great, we got the champagne on ice the whole time." They're all like popping corks, drinking it. And then he goes into like the conference room, which has like a buzzer he can talk to the other room. And he goes, "I've locked myself in the conference room, so you can't all get me. We don't have a second series and you're all fired."
Yeah.
It's like, it's literally what this guy did. The whole idea as well. And he's like, "I have to be the last one to leave the call." Because it's like he's playing the sad Predator music.
I know.
And what the fuck are we doing, bro? Like,
I also love it when the people who themselves have lied repeatedly, fucked everyone over, have to go, but I still have a moral,
it's a really
compass,
tough day.
I know,
me.
give you a break. You're the scumbag.
Me, the scumbag, is having a really.
If there's one thing I actually do appreciate about old school Hollywood is they didn't try to give every villain a conscience. Sometimes some guys was like, you can't get me, you break out.
Basically, by the way, when
just
someone attends a town hall where people have genuine grievances, but they make it all about them, we call that doing a Mark Merrill, right? That's the term for it. Because when Mark Merrill cried in that town hall for women that all had been systemically abused and underpaid
and
by
you just know
Ryan.
he had
company
to do
culture
some,
that he invented, by the way. He invented the frat company culture and then was so sad about it.
You also just know he actually, for real, I'm just going to speculate that he didn't actually authentically cry, Richard. He was on some joy from friendship where he was either pulling his own pubes out or he was just thinking about something like how, I don't know, Tencent should have paid him even more for his stock. And then he finally worked one salty tear out.
Here's the thing.
That's for you.
If there's one thing narcissists are really good at, it is recontextualizing someone else's tragedy, making it affect you, and then getting really sad about it.
Well, enough about that reckless thing that happened on Mina's video.
Yeah, but enough about your reckless video. So basically, people can do
so
it.
I do want to have a time to talk about the Counter-Strike circuit in general, because as shitty as the things that YaLLa Compass did, I do think that there are some points here about how it's not necessarily fair play in the way that Valve is administering this system, because a lot of the rules that we discussed with Messioso in that episode a year ago on this show are not really being enforced all the time. And while they were enforced on some tier 2 entities, including YaLLa Compass, about, hey, you're up to some shenanigans with the invite, you're not following the invite rules, we have seen that major tournament organizers have also broken the rules, and Messioso has complained about this on Twitter, including that you are supposed to announce the location of your LAN far enough in advance. And tournament organizers like ESL have put placeholders for IEM events that they have invited teams to, and nobody knew where those LANs were taking place, and they didn't abide by the rules that Valve had let down. So it really feels like, and look, I'm sure that some of these tournament organizers like YaLLa were probably being duplicitous and saying like, and trying to pull one over on Valve, and that probably made Valve angry for good reasons. And I imagine that ESL was probably very open in their communication with Valve, saying like, we're trying to figure this out, here's what's going on, which is probably why they weren't punished. But one wonders as to why some people are allowed to not follow the letter of the rules, and some people are punished for it. And I'm not saying YaLLa didn't deserve to be punished for it, because, Luis, you can opine, but they didn't invite the right teams according to the rankings, and that seems like very intentionally shitty, or at least very stupid.
On YaLLa's part, I think in their case specifically, it was more like incompetence, to be honest. At least at the start of the year, that's
fair enough.
What it was, And with CCT, they were just trying to follow what was, the shadow ban system, and they were keeping teams in the dark as to why they were not getting invited. Right? I talked to over 10 teams, and they were just saying, okay, we're not going to invite you because of this rule, which is very vague, and you have no idea what is going on, and that it's done that, and it is done in that way on purpose, right? So that teams will not be getting a very specific reason why they were not getting invites. But yeah, I completely agree that there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be ironed out when it comes to the VRS system. Just this week, I think we had Perfect World changing once again the rules and the invite for the CS AJ Championships that they'll be running at the end of this year in China. It's the second time that they have announced changes to the rules, and Messi also as rightly pointed that out. But I think one of the worst aspects of the VRS system is that the ones who are policing the system is the community and HLTV, right? And that's something that I've always said from day one, that we should not be the ones doing that. We are the ones who determine at the end of the day which tournaments are ranked, and we have to to stay on top of that, right? We have to make sure that the tournaments are following the regulations. We are the ones at the end of the day who determine which tournaments are ranked, right? And I don't think we should be in that position. I've said this from day one. I don't think we should be the ones doing that. I think Valve should have dedicated people, Messios or whoever, right, to make sure that the VRS system is working as intended, which is clearly not the case right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously the situation with the tournaments right now, it's so fucking up in the air, because like we see preferential treatment for ESL and Perfect World, right? That's just a given. We know for a fact that and obviously Valve's own tournaments as well, it's got to be said. They're not adhering to their own rules, and they're changing things. And it is affecting, teams make these choices in advance. I mean, we've had it, Graham pointed this out. We've had a number of qualifiers that have just changed the region slots. You're just not going to be there. Sometimes in qualifiers that have already been played. So retroactively changing how many teams play from qualifiers. So in other words, you've wasted some teams' time. And so you've got all that going on. Meanwhile, the new startup tournaments like YaLLa and Sky Esports particularly, they're trying to meet these standards, and they're trying to do it so far in advance that they're not able to. They don't get the VRS points. They don't get VRS status. They're not included in the tour, and therefore no team wants to attend because ultimately the prize money isn't enough. It's not enough. It has to be, I'm in these rankings, so I get into these other tournaments so I can make more prize money. You would have to have a staggering prize pool at a non-VRS tournament to even make it worth the time to attend. So unfortunately, a lot of the issues that VRS was like, so when they first set it up, I thought, oh, this is really good. Valve are going to be more involved in esports. What they've actually done is they've created a system that is meant to self-regulate so they can walk away from esports. And what we've actually seen in reality pan out is they're not even adhering to the system. It's not even being held up as like, these are the rules. Nobody gets to break the rules. Like, you can break the rules. If you're running the major, you break the rules. You're running a major qualifier, you can break the rules. If you're Perfect World, our business partner in China, you can break the rules. If you're Valve, us, we can break the rules. If you're ESL, we won't hold you accountable for breaking the rules. We'll make some vague non-statement about how everyone must adhere to the rules. If you're Sky Esports, fuck you. You know? So I really don't like where VRS is at. And it's like, it's another classic example of a good idea done half-assed in Counter-Strike, and it's led us to all of the problems it was meant to solve. It's actually just created those problems again. It's like the franchise league era on steroids, basically, in terms of the haves and have-nots and what have you. And look, if Valve would just simply enforce the rules, it would be good. But they aren't doing it. They're giving a pass to ESL, particularly.
Yeah, but sorry,
partner,
we live in a world where, for example, just to give an example, a tournament organizer can come in and say, okay, we're going to be doing this tournament for Portuguese and Spanish teams, just for example, something that is close to home for me. And it's going to be a tier 2 tournament for just teams from these two countries. We have this prize money, but we're never going to pay it. We might never just pay the money, but the teams will still get a very nice ranking boost because apparently, we gave out that prize money. We live in a world where such things can happen, and I'm right now looking into this because I've been told that there will be, a bunch of tournaments have popped up out of nowhere, because the major invite cutoff will be on October the 6th, I think, and we'll have so many tournaments on LAN in September, right? Some of them from established tournament organizers, others not so much. We're seeing new tournament organizers popping up and trying to run tournaments, in Poland, in I think in Latvia as well, for example. We'll have tournaments everywhere next month, right? And some of them are charging I've heard of a case of a tournament organizer that is charging a €2,000 sign-up fee for a tournament that will have a prize pool of $10,000. And we're talking about, I think it's 16 teams. So times 2, that's with $32,000, and it would have a prize money of $10,000, I think. So it is crazy. Some of these tournaments might just actually be just scams, and it will be down to us to just police them and try to figure out what is real and what isn't.
Well, I mean, what a great job! What a great job to be doing, because like the problem with a lot of these things is, obviously, we're not going to know until it's sort of essentially too late. I mean, like the problem we've got is with everyone wanting to pick and choose what events they go to, and you have to do it so far in advance. You're under pressure from the TOs. You're under pressure from, the VRS ranking points. So ostensibly, you're under pressure from Valve. You have to be saying, yeah, we will attend. When the invites come in, you've got to make a snap decision based on everything that's on the chessboard of your schedule and where you're at in the rankings. You've got to make a snap decision whether you're going to go or not. And
I've also been told of teams that are signed up for 2 tournaments that could take place at the same time, and they'll decide last minute which one they will go to.
Yeah, that happens as well, which is another ridiculous thing that shouldn't be allowed, because obviously by the time they turn one down, you then can't. You are then throwing a last second invite to somebody else, whoever's next in the chain. They might not be able to attend either.
I even did hear about an example. I forget the tournaments, I won't say which, but I heard about one earlier in the first season this year where a team, like a known team, but who was outside the VRS from the big lands, said no to one small tournament because it wouldn't have had VRS, and yes to another. And then the one they said yes to got the VRS points stripped, and then the other one got given them. And it was like too late to switch. It's like, again, like this is some clown show shit when you consider that VRS essentially, people have to think of it this way. What you're essentially doing if you're Valve is VRS is like saying in League of Legends, Riot controls the whole circuit and has the entire qualification system from domestic all the way through to Worlds. It's essentially saying I'm going to outsource that to an algorithm. So at that point in time, Monty, like this would be like if you had some scam LAN run like one small regions tournament, but that's the qualifier to get into Worlds, bro. Like if you're Riot, you have to care about that. So I do think this is an example to bring it back again where like if you're Valve, you can't just fucking avert your gaze on this. Like it might seem like small potatoes, but it all feeds into the circuit. That's the whole point of the circuit.
I also think there's like also a non-zero chance that a team from a less prominent region could actually kind of ghost run their own Mickey Mouse tournament to qualify, if that makes sense. Like basically if you are from a smaller region, you could set up a different company to then host a LAN with a prize pool, but because you own the team, your intention is never to pay your own team the prize money, right? And so there's a potentially because the like, or even if you did pay your team the prize money, as an org, the potential reward of major stickers could be greater than the prize money of that tournament, right? And so you could actually just set up completely like fraudulent events that were designed to give your team an overwhelmingly large shot at winning in order to boost their ranking.
Yeah. Which has been a problem.
It's a crazy thing to say.
Valve said
it's HLTV.
Oh, sorry, go on,
Yeah, ultimately, it's HLTV who has been doing the vetting for the tournament organizers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, like, which is another issue we'll get to in a second, but I was just going to say, the other thing that Valve said they were definitely going to police is this conflict of interest stuff. I just think we've given up on conflict of interest in esports. I just don't think anyone cares about it anymore. I mean, because it's like Bet Boom are playing in a Bet Boom tournament against teams that
nobody
are
knows
sponsored
who
by
owns
Bet
Falcons.
Boom. Like, what the fuck is happening here? Like it's mental. I remember in writing about this stuff in like 2016, 2017. Just started E-League, and E-League would certainly have rather I didn't do it. I had to negotiate in my contract. I would still be allowed to do journalism and still be allowed to publish stuff on my YouTube channel. E-League certainly didn't want that, because they thought maybe it might be problematic and it might cause teams to not want to participate in the tournament. And so I remember back then, when I used to publish conflict of interest stories, things used to change. People used to go, fucking hell, can't be doing that. We brought in all these rules about disclosure. I mean, we're not policing any of this shit now, are we? I mean, like, how many...
No.
Like, how many tournaments are Bet Boom associated with? How many tournaments are One Expert associated with,
Those and also Falcons, who are most likely owned by the PIF or the Saudi Royals, who also own ESL, the biggest TO.
The Saudi stuff is Chinatown. You definitely have to leave that alone. Like, there's no way. Because, so the Esports World Cup, owned by the PIF, I don't care if they set it up. It's actually a non-profit organization that's independent. All right, dickheads. Yeah, wicked. Great game. Nice one. GG.
Where does all the money come from then?
So they pay the orgs to have the teams via their stimulus club program. So I don't even have a team unless you pay me to have the team. I then enter the team into your tournament, but not just exclusively your tournament. This other tournament over here, which is also owned by the people that are funding you. And by the way, while I'm there, I play against Falcons, also owned by the people that are funding you. And one of the crazy things I saw about this was, so like, think about it this way. There is now at ESL events and at the Esports World Cup, you get financial inducements based on how much viewership you get. And so Falcons go out, they buy Kyusuke from Spirit, which is, they didn't sign him because he's a good fit, or they didn't sign him because he's like, an amazing player. That is by the by. That's not their priorities. But he is incredibly, despite being an academy player, one of the most talked about players since Donk. So they sign him, that he makes his debut in ESL. They get the most watched game in ESL, because it was like against fucking Navi or something crazy. And so they get a financial kickback for having the highest viewership. So they're funding, ESL are funding Falcons their transfers ostensibly. So it's like they're not. Everyone goes, "Oh, they're spending all this money," but they've rigged the game so they get loads of it back.
Complementary business.
So what? Like, you can't touch that now. That's gone. That's just like we're just gonna have to tolerate that for the next year or two.
If anything, it's almost actually like a reprieve that we get ridiculous, like fake stories come out of a time machine. Like a guy called Jet Ski is ripping everyone off. Like, if anything, that's more lighthearted and fun. We can engage with that. The Saudi one involves having to unpick the entire rules-based order of the world.
None of it
I
is
can't
being
really do
policed.
that.
And I have to say, and sorry, I wasn't planning on doing this, Luis, and I hope you have enough knowledge about me. I'm not a gotcha kind of guy. But I mean, I also do find it a little bit problematic that HLTV is essentially the curator of something that I think Valve should be running. And you yourselves, as a publication, you have. Yeah.
I mean, he basically just said the same thing himself.
Just said the same
thing.
I agree with that. Yeah.
No, but what I mean is, like, I don't want to get into the minutiae because I don't want to like name names of companies or whatever. But for instance, it's probably not a great look that 1xBet sponsors ESL, PGL, but also has a business partnership with HLTV, and HLTV is also curating the Valve rankings, and this is we're really in
murky waters.
Yeah, exactly, brother. and like I know you're smart enough to feel that way as well. So, but it's tough, man. It's like maybe we just have to accept esports as an industry can't survive without conflict of interest. Maybe we never can be ethical. Maybe we can never. It's too small. We just have to have all these overlapping, problems.
I mean, like if we're real, the Olympics and FIFA have many of like these same.
Which is another thing I think about often. I like look what happened with this fucking.
Like you say, it's too small, but even the most giant sports orgs in the world are conflicted and bribed and corrupt.
Oh yeah,
and so I would like to have hope, Richard, that if it got bigger, it would not be this way. But all evidence points to the fact that it will probably only get worse.
I mean, like if you look at what just happened with the FIFA Club World Cup. Which was basically, right, at a time when all of the players and all of the football teams are screaming about how they want to play fewer games a season. Because you are literally having some teams in some leagues, like by they get to the end of the season, they played 70 games of football. And so, if they do well in all the competitions. And so anyway, that we all of a sudden just had another tournament in America, in down in Florida. And what happened there was FIFA were trying to sell the rights for it. None of the TV companies wanted to buy the rights. ITV, which is like, one of our channels over here, they bid £0 for it and said, we'll broadcast it, but we're not going to pay for the privilege of broadcasting it. Because nobody cared. It was like, people are just like, it's the summer, it's the holidays, we've all got football fatigue. I don't need to see a bunch of meaningless games being played for Americans, right? Like, I'm okay, right? So nobody wanted to watch it. But anyway, from nowhere, DAZN, they bid $1 billion for the broadcasting rights. Right? That's mental. So we've gone from 0 to $1 billion. And then it turned out that another...
Is that where the guy who used to do the Twitch deal with Overwatch League went to? Did he
right.
after that?
Right. Not bad. So anyway, shortly after that, the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund put $1 billion into DAZN. They bought a 10% stake. And guess who's getting the next? Guess who's got the next World Cup? Appointed by FIFA. Guess who's had that awarded to them? The next one that was up for grabs. Well, it was FIFA. FIFA have given it to Saudi.
I do appreciate that. Like that, Simpsons were so far ahead of their time. They don't even do you the decency of making it subtle. They really do it like that scene where Mo gets that money, like, oh, my laundry is here. It's that giant sack of money with a dollar sign on. Like, it's so outrageous how they do it. It's like they barely give you any abstraction.
That's what I mean. It's like, put it this way. I remember when you had to have a shell company within a shell company with offshore bank accounts. You know what I mean? And
I mean, the joke is we've done this before. When Richard was looking into all the Nicola Nyholm and Astralis stuff, it's because in Denmark, they actually do have one of those public sites. It's called Verk.dk, where you can just click on all the shell companies. I even said to Richard, the problem, that's why I actually feel bad for Nicola Nyholm. Oh, he had done stuff, Monty, like put things in, like 3 layers of shell companies. But the problem is, because it's a public website, that's just 3 clicks, mate. Like, I actually just keep clicking and I just get there at the end anyway. So I know. And probably such an arse on the setup.
The worst thing is as well, you can literally,
and at the end, it's like owned by.
You can literally just click on people, their name, it just shows all the companies they have ties to and what positions they have in it. It's like
exactly.
This isn't even investigative journalism at this point. This is just like reading. So yeah, but anyway.
Which sadly it does solve a lot of the problems in esports.
Yeah,
no one will do it.
Well,
so
why
anyways, another indictment of the industry.
Display. But anyway, back to the point. The tour, the VRS tour, or whatever you want to call it, the circuit.
Oh, yeah, by the way, I'll tell you one thing as well, Richard. This is a sad point, but it's actually a real point too, which is I actually made a similar comment to Messi also. I actually told him, believe it or not, your problem is this, mate. Because you are someone who is actually engaging with this material and you really care and you're finding out the literal factual specifics of what's wrong with the system. I said, believe it or not, and this is a bother to tell you, but no one gives a fuck, mate. People want it to be sexy and salacious. And you almost no jokes should try to come up with. I even told him, I'm just not even mad. I told him to try and get attention. I would do something weird like, you'll remember this, Mira. Remember like 10 years ago, where our mutual friend Lurpis, Tommy Covenant, used to do that weird thing where if there was an upset about to happen in a match, he'd post like a thing where it was like upset alarm, and it was like a picture of his face, and say like, there was some, and this sounds like a joke, but the point is it would actually make people on Twitter like, oh, fuck, is someone about to lose? And it actually was like a real thing that became like almost like a meme in the community. I actually told Messi also, I'm not even trolling, you should probably try and figure out something mad like that, like VRS warning or something, and it's like you show when something's...
It's a good idea. It's all about the packaging, man.
I'll tie this into a bigger point. If you watch on the upcoming LFN foreplay arc about journalism, the real joke is if you actually wanted people to care who are normal fans, you can't actually do this like a boring, like 60 Minutes report, like, oh, and then I found out this corruption was going. You actually need it to be like the guy out of Network Monty. You'd have some guy like, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. I'm sick and tired of it all. This is you'd almost need like an enthusiastic influencer to like capture the public goodwill in some fucked way. Because I feel like no one actually wants to go into all the boring minutiae. They want a big sexy story to be sold on and to feel like they're on the right side of history and all these dreaded phrases. So
yeah,
and we definitely won't be calling this episode of the Four Horsemen something like this esports org owes $1 million. We definitely won't be doing that, so don't worry. You already clicked on the video.
The fucking guy out of Austin Pipe, $1 million. That's Klaus Jetson. Even sounds like an Austin Pipe.
I'll even do this for the fucking thumbnail, you dickhead.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And then have him dreaming like $1 million.
Of course, we are referencing Austin Powers in 2025, so maybe
the original one.
Maybe no one even knows what the fuck we're talking about.
And Austin Powers is a parody of James Bond in the 60s, which they definitely haven't. We're so far removed from anything that anybody would watch.
Listen, that's the irony of us having a fucking channel called Last Free Nation Culture. We're just, it's not pop culture, is it? It's fucking the boomer
Last
culture.
Unk Nation. That's what we'll rebrand it.
Yeah, correct.
That's not bad, actually. By the way, someone should make a meme of that. Last Unk Nation. That was all like, drinking Coke 45 or something. Yeah. Have some ridiculous old boomer shit. I know.
But anyway, let's start wrapping it up.
Sure.
I'll ask Luis about, like, obviously, as the journalist that investigated all of this, in terms of, and I'm sure you got many other stories going, in terms of what you think the void YaLLa is going to leave, do you think realistically another esports org could come in, fill it? Do you think it's like totally okay that it's gone under, or we'll be all right? We've got fissure, it's all going to be okay. What's your overall kind of feeling about, what we sort of are left with?
I think it's going to be hard, and I, as I included in my reporting, I even talked to a representative from Bad Boom, and he expressed concern for the way that esports right now is so reliant on betting money, and he said,
it's hilarious that they're saying it.
Yeah. I hope that by now we would be in a position where betting would not be, would not have such an important role in esports. That's what he said, And I'm a little bit concerned, especially with the stories coming out about ESL trying to cut costs, right, and Blast. Who knows how they're doing right now? Fisher, I'm not so sure about their long-term plans, but YaLLa was supposed to be like some of the best that Tier 2 Counter-Strike had to offer, right? And we've been left without that, right? And a lot of teams and the staff members and freelancers are still suffering from that, right? So I'm not exactly sure who'll be filling that void. I think that, especially with the VR system as it is right now, I think we'll see some tournaments like Fragadelphia and others have a very important role in the scene, right? But how sustainable is that when we're not talking about the months and weeks leading up to the major cutoff, right? We'll have so many tournaments next year, something that we've never seen before, or we haven't seen in like a decade or so. But how sustainable is that when teams will just care about the major invite cutoff? And also, what teams are we talking about that can, fly to Philadelphia to play in a tournament like this? We're not talking about the top 100 teams, right? We're talking about teams that are already established and that already have some financial backing behind them, right? For example, NIP flew to Philadelphia to compete in the tournament. Not every team is able to do that. And if we're getting to a point where teams will have to spend money to attend these events, we're pretty much talking about the pay-to-win system in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because not every team will have those conditions and that financial backing in order to be able to do that. And that is concerning to me.
Sure, definitely. I think, look, ultimately, like I said, all of the stuff we wanted to fix about the franchise era, remember the problems we identified in the franchise era were, if you had millions in the bank, you could buy your way into a league. You could never be out of that league. You would always be a participant. Therefore, you would always be artificially inflated in the HLTV World Rankings, which would then dictate invites to other tournaments. And so, in an unofficial capacity. And so Valve looked at that and said, yeah, that's bad because it's excluding other teams. So here's what we'll do. We'll create a system that ultimately it's just all a meritocracy. It's one big meritocracy. But then they made the algorithm. So if you aren't already in the events, it is so unbelievably hard to get to events, to get points so you can get to the events. So you've got the exact same thing that was going on. It's just happening like numerically, mathematically, rather than by design. And then the other issue you've got, of course, was that the other problem you had with the franchise leagues was that it was essentially hoarding wealth, a big dragon hoard of gold for the teams that could afford to be in there, because by participating in the tournaments, they were sharing the revenue. And so they were getting further and further apart from the smaller teams. Well, now that's happening again, like in the VRS, because if you go to the events, you're getting paid tier 10 now. Just as a matter of fact, you just have to, it's literal pay to play. In fact, ESL are essentially halving their prize pools while still getting all of the cash share of advertising a 1.25 million prize pool, and 50% of it might, or 70% in some cases, might be going to the organization, not the players. Which, by the way, Valve have explicitly told me, like in the past when I've talked to Valve people, they've always conceptually believed in the idea that 5 players would not need to be salaried and could attend events and just live off the prize money, and orgs actually could be cut out of the paradigm entirely. Well, so what now, Valve? Are you going to address this? You're going to do anything about this? They should be stripped of their VRS points, in my opinion. A prize pool should be what goes to the players. Well, no, we're not doing that no more. So essentially the haves and the have-nots that we had with the fucking franchise system, we still got all that. So what did VRS fix? I mean...
You can also imply, by the way, that you're even potentially it's indirect, but you're potentially incentivized to actually lie about your prize pool, because the prize pool is what also makes the VRS points important. Like, if people don't know, the whole reason why the female team of Imperial, the Valkyrie squad, was in the male circuit earlier this year was because they went to tournaments that were female-only tournaments, but that had a large amount of prize money relative to what like tier 2 and tier 3 male teams play, and they don't go to LANs, and they don't tend to win a lot of prize money. So actually the prize money angle is so directly tied to the VRS points. The worst part is it actually even potentially incentivizes someone who does have the money to just exaggerate the amount, like to put it even higher, because think about it, the higher the prize money, the more points, the more teams want to attend. Like, like again, this is why I know what you mean, Richard. The real problem I have here is that's not itself a direct conflict of interest, but it's like, it's so obvious how that's open to abuse. It's like when you see that the mechanism, how it could be abused, you have to try and shut it down before anyone does it. You can't have one of these episodes a year from now where we go, and here's how they did abuse it all, and set up a thing with the next YaLLa Compass. So this is why I have concerns about the way the whole system works. Essentially, the problem with VRS is it does sound brilliant in theory. It's just the actual implementation so far has almost been fucked up at every turn, unfortunately. And a lot of it, by the way, with things, this is why we always harp back to the idea that you really do need like a Messioso type figure, because there are so few people even endemic to esports who know the ins and outs of all these aspects and can see these problems coming. I don't claim that I would, by the way. I'm informed by people like that too. So the idea of Valve could be ahead of some of these things, I think it's just a very naive idea.
To have a commissioner. There's got to be somebody making active decisions and communicating those decisions and rulings, and there's got to be a point of contact. Like, it's just that simple. Like, put it this way, at this stage, it's like Valve, like, just, I don't know, like, if this is what we're gonna get, like, just walk away. Like, 'cause it's no bet. We're no further forward. You've just created a bunch of rules and regulations that people have to adhere to, which you selectively enforce anyway. Well, like, just fucking leave it. Just leave it alone. Like, we're all sick of esports, Valve. We get it. And obviously, you are too. So, like, let's just leave it and let the people that want to run it, and the people that don't. And just, let's quit the majors. Let's just not do any of it, because it's fucking silly. Like, this is really fucking stupid. It's so stupid that we've got like organizations that like can't even exist financially in this threshold anymore. Even like legacy orgs like Complexity, and everything else is just owned and funded by Saudi, and wink wink nudge nudge, try not to think about it too much. But by the way, we do have this official VRS ranking system. Like, it's a fucking mess, man. The scene's a mess. So, like, I'd rather Valve would just fucking withdraw entirely and let's just see what happens. Like, I'd rather have utter chaos than this fake structure, this fake order, because this just sucks for everybody, I think.
Yeah, and also we're in a position where different teams have different conditions in terms of getting access to the VRS. For example, if you're from a country that has a very active LAN scene, like, for example, Mongolia, there was a lot of drama before the Autumn Major where people were saying Meza was trying to organize as many tournaments as possible, as close to the invite cutoff as possible, to try to boost the Mongolian teams in the rankings, right? That is totally possible, right? Not just obviously with Mongolian tournaments organized, but also with, for example, Finland has an active LAN scene, for example, Poland as well. And if you have the blessing of being in one of those countries, you have access to more tournaments and access to VRS points. If you don't have that, you have to spend money to travel to countries where those tournaments take place, right? So the country you're from will play an active role in the number of opportunities you will have to compete in LAN tournaments and to get into the VRS.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a tough one. The YaLLa Compass stuff is, almost like a sidebar. I think we're probably going to see another couple of tournament operators kind of flame out. And let's not forget, there is, of course, the insane possibility that the Saudis just decide to sell ESL next year. Remember, they have to be profitable by 2026. So good luck with that. So watch out, CS. You might have put all your eggs in one basket. One unethical, human rights violating basket.
And everyone who worked at ESL will
conflict of interest for all. Amen.
And everybody who worked there, if it's sold, will conveniently have amnesia that they ever sold themselves out to work for
Here's what they'll do, Monty.
Saudi government.
They're so bad, they'll all do that thing like, I'm so close to leaving that many times as well.
You mean like all the ex-rioters?
Yeah. I've seen too many deprogrammed born-again rioters, which is exactly that, to know what it's like.
By the number of people in Riot Esports who have left Riot and then come to me and said, Monty, I thought you were crazy, but I actually agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
Great.
And it's only at that moment they became crazy.
But people realize once they're out of Riot that it actually was a cult. They do get deprogrammed. It's fascinating. And then they do admit that Riot is a cult, in fact.
There's also something a bit too on the nose as well, to bring it right back to the original topic about the idea that the company that goes bankrupt and fucks everyone over is called Compass, implying we now no longer know what direction we are headed in and we are potentially rudderless in this world. It's too on the nose. It's too nihilistic. Where's the good news again? Now, again, Bill Hicks reference. Can I just have a news story about a hot air balloon? You know what I mean? Like, can I have something? Is there anything good coming down the pipeline? Come on.
Well, yeah, we got the Nations Cup to look forward to. What's wrong with you, dickhead?
True. There you go. Yeah, actually, my bad. Let's get ready for the return of nationalism in esports. Perfect timing, guys. Well done. You nailed that one.
Always fun.
Well, London is happy, right?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed, Launders loves this.
I wonder how long he's going to keep walking that edgy tightrope. Because as someone who's been on said tightrope before, listen, mate, eventually you're going to put that foot in the wrong area.
I did see there was like a Reddit thread talking about it, and it was like somebody said like Launders will be loving this. I think it was for the announcement of the Nations Cup. And someone went, why? And he went, well, Launders is a racist. And it was all like this argument about.
That's what he says, though.
People don't realise it was because he didn't. On a podcast, he said, "I'm a racist." And he wanted to say like a nationalist. He thinks teams should all have the same nationality because of the advantages.
It's a totally tame opinion, actually. Yeah, exactly.
And then, obviously, because everybody was like laughing about it, he owned the meme, and now we've got so far down the road of the meme, and this always happens that. People just come in like blindly. Lawrence is racist. I heard he's racist. He's fucking. And people don't understand the original context.
Of course.
It's happened to me a million.
To be fair,
times.
it is very funny though.
It's hilarious. I mean, and by the way, he still does it. He did a video. It was my racist tier list.
Yes.
It's like funny because Mongols might be the most racist. What? I love it. How are you doing this content, bro? This is mental. So, well, good time. So there you go, Duncan. There's something to look forward to. Launders being accused of being a racist in 2026 when the Nations Cup comes around.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Four Horsemen. Thanks, you, Luis, for joining us.
Good to catch
up. Great job
me.
On your reporting. Do go read the article, guys. Make sure that
HLTV need a features section. Where's your features section?
True.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we'll be able to.
You're just in there with news where it's just like people saying like, nip.
Here's like a casual
and they've got
5,000 word
I can tell you, by the way,
like, come on, bro.
Whereas actually, if it was 10 years ago, I would have criticised the fact that they had all the stats, but they didn't have many articles. One of the other things also that they need a feature section for is they have all those banger stats articles that like Nero and all those people. Like, those are actually really good. Yeah.
Definitely get
definitely.
that.
We need a separate section for that.
Tell the overlords. Tell Professor Strike, whoever's records the fucking website. Tell them we need a features tab. This should not be next to Maja says.
Yes.
They were better than us. Again. Like.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for watching. Till next time, esports still end as.